Chapter 222. Looks like we'll have to split up. Fang Qingshan said. With so many divine ability manuals, everyone had their own requirements. For example, Mu Chun wanted the evolution method of the immortal golden body. Nine Nether wanted the undying bird's divine ability. Lin Jing wanted a martial divine ability. Xiao Xiao wanted a flame divine ability, etc. Not only would it be inefficient, but it would also be a waste of resources. All right, then we'll split up. Naturally, no one had any objections to Fang Qingshan's suggestion. All of them nodded their heads and impatiently picked a direction to fly away. It's time for me to move as well. Looking at the disappearing silhouettes of Mu Chen's party, Fang Qingshan had also chosen a direction. Rustle, rustle. Fang Qingshan's body transformed into a roaming dragon, shuttling through the many meteors as he sensed with rapt attention. When he was searching for the sovereign immortal body in Sanqing, he had also seen all the powerful divine abilities in the ancient Haven Palace. If he took those divine abilities out, it would immediately cause a storm of blood. If it was someone else, they would probably be dazzled by the number of divine abilities. However, Fang Qingshan was different. He only had two goals from the start to the end. One was the Supreme Dharma Idol. The reason why he collected them was because they could be used to improve his own strength. He wanted to accumulate enough resources for himself to break through to the Dharma Idol of heaven and earth. The second was the Three Pure Ones. This divine ability allowed one to create two clones, both of which had the same power as the main body. Most importantly, the Sanqing was the trump card of the senior brother in the Desolation Realm. Although this wasn't the Desolation Realm, and the Heavenly Emperor's Sanqing could only form two clones, Fang Qingshan had a feeling that this divine ability should be that divine ability. As they traveled, Fang Qingshan saw many divine abilities, and some of them were even within his reach. However, he didn't hesitate to give them up. Naturally, he had also obtained some sovereign immortal body cultivation techniques, and some of them were even ranked on the sovereign ranking. However, his search was too slow. Hey, am I stupid? At a certain moment, Fang Qingshan suddenly stopped, slapped his forehead, and said in annoyance. Since he could think of using the little destiny art to communicate with karma and pull out the scripture depository, why didn't he think of using the little destiny art to link up all the cultivation methods of the Supreme Dharma Idol? You can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find what you're looking for without even looking. Fang Qingshan smiled bitterly and shook his head, following which his expression turned serious and he began to chant. A loud and clear voice rang out. The power of fate is everywhere. The wheel of fate is constantly spinning. I will use the power of fate to communicate with karma and summon the cultivation method of the Supreme Dharma Idol. Assemble. Even though they were inside the scripture depository, the power of fate still descended upon them without any hindrance. Damn it, it's this power again. Sensing that indescribable, inexplicable, indescribable, and inescapable power, the scripture pavilion's artifact spirit couldn't help but curse. Previously, he was forced out of the void by this force. Is this damn brat done? Fang Qingshan was naturally unaware of the scripture pavilion's artifact spirit's dissatisfaction. He only felt that as the little destiny art was activated, his lifespan was decreasing bit by bit. Fortunately, this wasn't a battle, and he was only communicating with karma. Thus, he didn't need to exhaust much of his lifespan. Furthermore, his lifespan had already broken through the limit, so he didn't have to worry about exhaustion. With the descent of fate, the cultivation methods of the Supreme Dharma Idol that were scattered all over the scripture depository started to move. As though they were summoned by fate, they flew into the sky and flew towards Fang Qingshan's direction. Good. After executing the little destiny art, Fang Qingshan stood on the spot and waited quietly. In just a short while, he saw divine ability scrolls flying over from all directions and quietly hover before him, as though they were troops waiting to be inspected. Flipping through them, what else could they be if not for the cultivation method of the Supreme Dharma Idol? What left Fang Qingshan shocked was that there was a star that was only a thin golden page. The golden page was engraved with ancient runes, and every single rune seemed to be formed by the heavens, possessing the power to summon the wind and rain. Naturally, that wasn't important. What was important was that there were three ancient words engraved on it: immortal golden body. Although Fang Qingshan was shocked, he wasn't too bothered about it. That's because the immortal golden body was also a cultivation method for the sovereign celestial body, so it was naturally within the range of fate's power. However, Mu Chun was pitiful, since he had to look for him to obtain the cultivation method of the immortal golden body. Why don't I summon the Sanqing over as well? While waiting for the sovereign celestial body to gather, Fang Qingshan wanted to gather the cultivation method of the Sanqing as well. With Fang Qingshan's voice, fate's power descended once again. Fate's power is everywhere, and the wheel of fate is constantly spinning. I'll use fate's power to communicate with karma and summon the Sanqing divine ability, come. However, Fang Qingshan was disappointed this time. Not only did he not summon the Sanqing divine ability, he even summoned the Hidden Scripture Pavilion's artifact spirit. The Hidden Scripture Pavilion's artifact spirit felt extremely sullen. Fate's power had descended time and time again. Although it did not cause any harm to him, the supreme aura and pressure made him feel extremely uncomfortable. The space in front of Fang Qingshan distorted, and then a white-haired old man in a Confucian robe ran out angrily with a bamboo scroll in his hand and scolded. "Brat, what are you trying to do?" In terms of understanding of the Hidden Scripture Pavilion, who else can be more knowledgeable than this person? Seeing the appearance of the artifact spirit, Fang Qingshan's eyes lit up, and he cupped his hands together. "I'm Fang Qingshan. Greetings, senior artifact spirit." Those who are unaccountably solicitous are hiding evil intentions. In response to Fang Qingshan's goodwill, the artifact spirit snorted coldly. Fang Qingshan did not mind it at all and asked, "Senior, may I ask why I can't find the Sanqing divine ability?" "I see." After sizing up the supreme cultivation method in front of Fang Qingshan and hearing Fang Qingshan's question, the artifact spirit came to a sudden realization. The descent of fate's power twice was obviously Fang Qingshan's supreme summoning method and the Sanqing divine ability. Originally, Fang Qingshan's actions were akin to cheating. However, now that the ancient Haven Palace had perished, coupled with the fact that he could not afford to offend fate's power and the pure Yang flying sword, the Hidden Scripture Pavilion did not blame him. The Sanqing divine ability is not stored here. Chapter 223. It's not in the Hidden Scripture Pavilion. Fang Qingshan instantly knitted his brows. Since the immortal golden body was kept here, why wasn't the Sanqing in there? The Sanqing is the Heavenly Emperor's signature divine ability. Furthermore, he seems to be looking for an inheritor, so he didn't keep it here. Seeing that Fang Qingshan didn't seem to believe it, the artifact spirit explained. If you want to obtain the Sanqing, then go to the Heavenly Emperor's cemetery. As long as you can obtain the Heavenly Emperor's acknowledgement, you can obtain this peerless divine ability. The artifact spirit was a little annoyed by Fang Qingshan's fate. Fearing that Fang Qingshan wouldn't believe it and summon it again, the artifact spirit guided him. So that's the case. I remember now. Hearing the artifact spirit's explanation, Fang Qingshan finally recalled it. Back then, when Mu Chun obtained the Sanqing, it wasn't in the Hidden Scripture Pavilion, but the Heavenly Emperor's cemetery. Looks like there's another problem. Fang Qingshan's face couldn't help turning dark. Although he felt that he wasn't any weaker than Mu Chun and might even win if they fought, this was the Great Thousand World, and Mu Chun had the halo of a main character. If the Heavenly Emperor had a choice, he wasn't sure that the Heavenly Emperor would choose him. Although in his heart, the three pure ones should have some karma, with the saint's special mystical ability, and the mystical ability that he cultivated also had some Taoist and Ren school techniques. He thought that there was a chance. However, there was no doubt that he had to take a gamble. This sort of thing that was out of his control made him feel uncomfortable. "MHM, Brother Fang?" Suddenly, Mu Chen's voice resounded from afar. "Brother Mu, why are you here?" Seeing Mu Chun rushing over, Although Fong Qingshan knew the reason, he still asked despite knowing the answer. Seeing that the evolution method of the immortal golden body was right before him, even Mu Chun couldn't help feeling excited. Shortly after, he felt a little awkward. After all, the immortal golden body was already in Fong Qingshan's hands. Brother Fong, could it be that you've also cultivated the immortal golden body? Mu Chun suppressed the excitement in his heart and asked curiously. No. Fong Qingshan shook his head. Huff. Mu Chun let out a long breath before he continued. Does Brother Fong know the main objective of my trip to the ancient Haven Palace? Is it because of the immortal golden body? Fong Qingshan asked. That's right. Mu Chun nodded his head. I'm cultivating the immortal golden body, and my main objective here is to evolve it. But it's a pity that it's in Brother Fong's hands. After a brief pause, Mu Chun said with a solemn expression, Brother Fong, since you don't cultivate the immortal golden body, I wonder if you would be willing to part with it. Don't worry, I'm not asking for it for free. If you have any requests, as long as it's within my power, Brother Fong, feel free to name them. Brother Mu, do you know my main objective for coming to the ancient Haven Palace? Fong Qingshan asked instead of answering. I'd like to hear the details. Although Mu Chun was desperate to obtain the immortal golden body from Fong Qingshan, he still played along with Fong Qingshan's question. To Brother Mu, the immortal golden body is the most precious thing, but to me, the Sanqing body is the most precious treasure. Fong Qingshan did not beat around the bush. The Sanqing body? The 36 peerless divine abilities, the Sanqing body? Hearing Fong Qingshan's words, Mu Chun nodded his head. The Sanqing body was a peerless divine ability that wasn't any weaker than his 8-divisional pagoda, so it wasn't strange that Fong Qingshan's target was him. However, it was strange that Mu Chun was telling him about this. I can give the immortal golden body to Brother Mu, but I have a request. Fong Qingshan suddenly changed the topic. Brother Fong, I'm willing to risk my life to fulfill your request. The immortal golden body was too important to Fong Qingshan, so he agreed without any hesitation. My request is simple, but it's also a little difficult. Fong Qingshan nodded his head. I hope that Brother Mu won't compete with me for the Sanqing body. That's it, Mu Chun asked. That's it, Fong Qingshan replied. All right, I'll agree to it. Mu Chun agreed without any hesitation. The Sanqing body was a peerless divine ability that even heavenly sovereigns would covet. Mu Chun had the 8-divisional pagoda, so he naturally knew how powerful and precious it was. However, the immortal golden body was Mu Chun's foundation, so he gave it up without any hesitation. All right, receiving Mu Chun's approval, Fong Qingshan rejoiced in his heart and waved his hand, handing the immortal golden body over to Mu Chun. He wasn't worried that Mu Chun would lie, since Fong Qingshan had already brought out the lesser destiny art when he was discussing the conditions with Mu Chun. The heavens couldn't be deceived. The moment he agreed, it would be equivalent to fate bearing witness. If he went against it, the power of fate would devour him, and it wouldn't be worth it. Thank you, Brother Fong. Mu Chun's hands trembled as he received the scroll of the immortal golden body. Naturally, he also sensed the indescribable, supreme, yet unfathomable and unshakable power of destiny. However, Mu Chun wasn't bothered by it. Although he had a good relationship with Fong Qingshan, they hadn't known each other for a long time, so it was normal for him to have his guard up. We're just taking what we need. Fong Qingshan shook his head. Brother Fong, let's part ways here. I'm going to cultivate. Mu Chun nodded his head. Since he had obtained the immortal golden body, he didn't want to stay any longer and bid his farewell. All right, I'm going to cultivate as well. After obtaining the sovereign celestial body, Fong Qingshan naturally had to make preparations to break through to the heavenly earth immortal body. After sending Mu Chun off, Fong Qingshan casually picked a corner and sat down before looking at the cultivation techniques of the sovereign celestial body in the hidden scripture pavilion. Fong Qingshan casually picked a cultivation technique of the sovereign celestial body and looked at it. This wasn't a sovereign celestial body of the 99 rankings of sovereign celestial body, but it was still acceptable. After all, Every single sovereign celestial body in the 99 rankings was a secret of a certain clan or force, and there weren't many of them that were leaked out. Furthermore, the Great Thousand World was vast with countless people. Although the 99 rankings of sovereign celestial bodies were authoritative, they weren't all-encompassing. There were some powerful sovereign celestial bodies that weren't in the 99 rankings, but they weren't any weaker than them. Take Mu Chen's Great Solar Celestial Body, for example. Although it wasn't in the 99 rankings, it wasn't any weaker than them. Fang Qingshan continued reading the Supreme Celestial Body manuals one by one. Even though he did not cultivate them, he could feel the aftertaste lingering as he chewed on them. This was especially so for the golden core in his sea of consciousness that was pulsating as though it had been stirred up. Chapter 2:24. Years are hard to keep, and time is easy to damage. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yun had no idea how much time had passed. Perhaps an hour, or perhaps a year. The sovereign celestial body was like firewood. After going through the wind and fire tribulation, the halo formed by the golden core was like a flame. When the two collided, sparks of wisdom flickered in Fang Qingshan's sea of consciousness. Fang Qingshan already had the inheritance of the world tree, and after reading so many sovereign celestial bodies, the bottleneck of the universal Dharma body was no longer there. A baby was gradually forming in his golden core. It's time. At a certain moment, Fang Qingshan murmured and opened his eyes. His gaze was like lightning, and his aura was as deep as the ocean. With a thought, a vast river of energy flowed out from the world tree's inner world and entered his body, fusing into the depths of his golden core. Speaking of which, although Fang Qingshan had yet to obtain the peerless divine ability, the Sanqing Dao in this trip to the ancient Haven Palace, he had already gained quite a lot. Not to mention going through the wind and fire tribulation, refining the karmic fire, Nirvana's sacred flame, and the origin of the world tree. Just the amount of spiritual energy that the world tree had devoured was massive. Although the spiritual energy from the Milky Way wasn't as beneficial to the growth of the world tree as the 9 solar holy water, immortal chi, or the world tree's fragment, the quantitative change had caused a qualitative change. The world tree had more or less grown. Of course, most of the spiritual energy was still stored in the world tree's inner world for Fang Qingshan's breakthrough. When the world tree was undergoing the baptism, it had devoured close to 1/10 of the heavenly lake's energy. The reason why there were so many spirits of the heavenly river that had been accumulated for countless years in the heavenly river was because he had collected almost all the spirits of the heavenly river. These spirits of the heavenly lake were formed from the water of the heavenly lake. Who knew how much water was needed to form a single grain? After leaving the heavenly lake, the world tree didn't stop. On the contrary, it became even more intense because there was no one around. If someone were to enter the heavenly lake again, they would realize that the water level of the heavenly lake had dropped. Therefore, now Fang Qingshan did not have to worry about the lack of spiritual power in Yuan Qi when breaking through. Furthermore, after the spiritual energy was devoured by the world tree, the harmful things and violent auras had long been removed. They were as gentle as elixirs and could be directly refined into true qi. Buzz. At this moment, Fang Qingshan's state of mind advanced to a state of no thought. His heart and spirit became one, and his hands naturally formed the Tao formula, harmonizing the dragon and tiger, rotating yin and yang. With the influx of spiritual qi, Fang Qingshan's golden core began to swell crazily, as if it had eaten the perfect tonic soup. Then it shrank fiercely. Indistinctly, he seemed to hear the cries of a baby. Like the first thunder in spring, it gave birth to life and hope. Fang Qingshan made a Tao incantation gesture and channeled the essential qi of the 5 elements of heaven and earth to activate his divine art. Thousands of light rays shone out from between his brows. True qi circulated to strengthen the Jindan, wanting to break the shackles. The divine ability was activated from the inside out, trying to break through the shackles. One on the inside and one on the outside, one soft and one hard, Under the bombardment of the two forces, fine cracks began to appear on the indestructible gold core. Kacha, kacha, kacha. More and more cracks appeared on the golden core, emitting colorful brilliance. Amidst the celestial music, a blurry figure could vaguely be seen inside, surrounded by auspicious light and natural spiritual patterns. The golden core is broken, and the Dharma form is out. Break, break, break. After the golden core expanded 9 times and shrank 9 times, Fang Qingshan softly said the word break 3 times. For a moment, it was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. Crack! With a final cracking sound, the pill shell exploded. It turned into infinite golden light and endless clear air. In the golden light and clear air, a Dharma form knocked open the heavenly gate and rose up. It was not a demon, a Buddha, a celestial, or a demon. Layers of auspicious light and auspicious air spread out from its body, shining for thousands of miles, supporting the golden body Dharma form surrounded by clear air, overflowing with Tao intent and full of majesty. The Dharma form stood in mid-air, one hand pointing to the sky, the other pressing on the ground, stepping on the 5 elements and 8 trigrams, wearing a golden dragon robe. Its face was blurry, surrounded by purple air, containing the brilliant power of heaven. It was difficult to look at, but vaguely it seemed to be somewhat similar to Fang Qingshan. This was the Dharma form that he had formed after combining the inheritance of the Tree of World, his own divine ability, and observing the various supreme Dharma bodies. Although it was not as shocking as Fang Han's 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes Dharma form, there was no doubt that the most suitable for him was the best. The foundation of his cultivation was the natural qi of the 5 elements, as well as the pure yang inheritance, which were all Taoist Dharma arts and divine abilities. Later, he obtained part of the Yellow Emperor's inheritance from Zhang Jiao and unified the world. Therefore, his Dharma form looked full of Tao intent, but there was no lack of majesty. As the Dharma form condensed, a majestic and tyrannical power radiated from the Dharma form, causing the space of the Sutra Depository to tremble. The Sutra Depository's artifact spirit had given up struggling. As long as the Sutra Depository was not destroyed, it did not want to care about what Fang Qingshan did, no matter how big the commotion was. When others cultivated to the Dharma form of heaven and earth, it would take a long time for them to break through. After all, breaking through to the Dharma form of heaven and earth required a huge amount of spirit qi. It was unknown how much time and resources it would take to push it to the point of changing fate. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan had robbed the Sky River, so the spirit qi in the Tree of World could not be more abundant. Moreover, the Tree of World was constantly devouring the spirit qi of the Sky River. Therefore, after breaking through to the Dharma form of heaven and earth, Fang Qingshan did not get up. Instead, he let the Tree of World directly let go of the control of the spirit qi and continued to inject it. The accumulation of Fang Qingshan's golden elixir was huge, and he did not know how much spirit qi he had consumed. After breaking through to the Dharma form of heaven and earth, he naturally would not be in the initial stage like others. At this moment, with the endless flow of spirit qi, his cultivation was pushed to the pinnacle of the Dharma realm. Fortunately, his mental state was sufficient, so he didn't have to worry about his cultivation being unstable. While Fang Qingshan broke through to the Dharma realm, Lin Jing, Xiao Xiao, and Nine Nether had also found their own opportunities and were sent out by the Sutra Depository's artifact spirit. After Mu Chun obtained the cultivation technique of the immortal golden body from Fang Qingshan, he did not feel relaxed, since he still had a competitor, Garuda. He had also cultivated the immortal golden body. Between the two of them, only one of them could exist. Garuda was truly worthy of being Mu Chun's nemesis with endless means. But it was a pity that he had encountered Mu Chun, who possessed the halo of a main character, and he was destined to have a tragic ending. After experiencing the tribulation, Mu Chun finally obtained the cultivation technique of the immortal golden body. Although he did not make a breakthrough in his cultivation, there was a qualitative change in his fighting prowess. Chapter 225. Above a barren hill in the ancient Haven Palace, there was a sudden spatial fluctuation. Light folded and a figure appeared. It was Fong Qingshan, who was chased out of the scripture depository after breaking through to the universal Dharma characteristic realm. Standing in the air, Lin Yun looked around and saw that everything within a few hundred miles was in ruins. Not even a blade of grass could be seen. It was as if it had been affected by a destructive power. Even after tens of thousands of years, there was still no sign of life. Looks like the Heavenly Emperor's cemetery isn't far from here. Even though tens of thousands of years had passed, the aura still hadn't dissipated. The remnant power made people's hearts palpitate. Even though Fong Qingshan had broken through to the worldly Dharma image realm, he still dared to fight against a newly advanced longevity giant. But before this power, his expression still turned serious. He could sense that there were two extreme powers intertwining together, destroying each other. However, neither of these powers were any weaker than the one that attacked him outside the great Xian Empire. In the ancient Haven Palace, there was no one else other than the Heavenly Emperor and the invading demon monarch that possessed this ability. The road ahead is long, but I will continue to seek it. Fong Qingshan sighed faintly. Although he had broken through 2 realms after entering the ancient Haven Palace and was only a step away from changing his fate, it was still unknown who would win if he fought against ordinary longevity giants. The little bit of pride that Fong Qingshan had just gained was instantly obliterated in the face of these two forces. The remnant power of the other party was still so terrifying after tens of thousands of years. So what was there for him to be proud of? Damn scripture depository. Didn't I just enter early and use fate a few more times? Is there need to be so petty? Looking at the remnant power below, Fong Qingshan couldn't help sweating. He knew that the scripture depository's artifact spirit must have purposely thrown him here. If he accidentally fell into the hill, he would lose a layer of skin even if he didn't die. Cursing the spirit of the Sutra Pavilion in his heart, Fong Qingshan carefully avoided the hills and quickly flitted across this barren mountain range, heading towards the mausoleum of the Heavenly Emperor not far away. The Heavenly Emperor's cemetery was also the final destination of the ancient Haven Palace, the place where the ancient Heavenly Emperor and Fiend Monarch fought. It wasn't just the younger generations of the elite ranking that came. Even the older generations of Earth Sovereigns were about to make their appearance. According to the original trajectory, not only would there be greater Earth Sovereigns and perfected Earth Sovereigns, even a Monarch, Flame Emperor, and Martial Ancestor would appear. Fortunately, even if the sky collapsed, there was someone taller to hold it up. Furthermore, Fong Qingshan had broken through to the Heavenly and Earth Celestial realm, so he dared to fight even an Earth Sovereign. With the pure Yang flying sword in his hand, as long as he didn't face a greater Earth Sovereign, there shouldn't be any problems. With his speed, Fong Qingshan swiftly traversed the hill. But the further he went, the more desolate it became. In the end, even the earth had weathered and turned into a desert. There was a cemetery that one couldn't see the end of. The surrounding space was shattered, and it was even more terrifying than when they first entered the ancient Haven Palace. Most importantly, the entire cemetery was enveloped by 2 powerful auras. Evidently, they belonged to the monarch and Heavenly Emperor. If the hill before him was the remnant of the battle, then this was the burial ground. The remnant power wasn't something that could be compared to before, but since he had already come this far, it was impossible for Fong Qingshan to retreat. Although the remnant power looked terrifying, it couldn't scare him. Furthermore, the divine ability of Sanqing was still inside, and he had yet to obtain it. Fong Qingshan took a deep breath and operated the Void Escape Sword Art. He carefully avoided the turbulence formed by the space fragments around the cemetery and fell into the dark cemetery. Buzz! The moment he entered, a formless pressure made Fong Qingshan's shoulders sink. It was so much so that even the spiritual energy in his body had turned sluggish. He knew that this was the suppression from the remnant power of the Heavenly Emperor and Monarch. Fortunately, he wasn't facing them personally, and it was just the remnant aura. In addition to the fact that Fang Qingshan wasn't someone to be trifled with, he only needed to adjust himself to the environment here. At this moment, only then did Fang Qingshan have the mood to look around. There were innumerable mountains scattered in the sky, and the ground was filled with sinister and bottomless cracks that coiled around like a primordial poison dragon. Just as Fang Qingshan was sizing up the mausoleum, the sound of something tearing through the air rang out. Streams of light streaked across the sky like stars, heading straight for this place. Not long after, silhouettes appeared. They were the various forces. Fang Qingshan saw Mu Chun, Lin Jing, and the rest. But what made Fang Qingshan feel strange was that they should have left the hidden scripture pavilion earlier than him, so he had no idea why they came to the Heavenly Emperor's cemetery later. Actually, it was also because of Mu Chen's protagonist halo. After all, they were the first to enter the hidden scripture pavilion, so they naturally did not obtain any opportunities from the 5 halls. Thus, they lost a portion of their training. Thus, when they left, the hidden scripture pavilion sent them back. Mu Chun was truly worthy of being the protagonist, since he wouldn't rest no matter where he went. So when he came to the cemetery, he encountered his old rival, Xia Hong. Naturally, not to mention Xia Hong, even his elder brother had fallen in Mu Chen's hands. After defeating the young, the old would come. Xia Hong knew that he wasn't Mu Chen's opponent, so he immediately summoned his father, the Greater Earth Sovereign, the Xia Emperor. Fortunately, Mu Chen wasn't alone. He had someone backing him. Seeing that the Xia Emperor was going to bully the weak, he waved his hand and called Mandala over. Along with the arrival of Mandala and Xia Hong, the others also felt threatened and called out their own forces. In an instant, powerful spiritual energy fluctuations soared into the sky from the Heavenly Emperor's cemetery with boundless spiritual energy filling the heavens and earth. Earth sovereigns started to descend into the cemetery, especially since there weren't any Greater Earth sovereigns amongst them. Both sides had Greater Earth sovereigns, and with so many people here, not to mention that they were in the Heavenly Emperor's cemetery, Mandala and Xia Hong stood in a confrontation. But they never expected that Mu Chun would have too many enemies. Before the Xia Emperor could deal with them, the Saint Demonic Palace's Garuda, whose immortal golden body was killed by Mu Chun, had also arrived. In this 2 versus 1 situation, Mu Chen's side had instantly fallen into an absolute disadvantage. Did you guys really think that you've got us? Mu Chun couldn't help sneering when he saw the Saint Demonic Palace and Xia Hong surrounding them. Chapter 226. Buzz. Mu Chun waved his hand, and an endless dark light blossomed. A dark and bewitching primordial divine flower slowly blossomed before everyone. The primordial mandala flower. It was personally planted by the Heavenly Emperor back then, and it was also Mandala's main body. As the flower bloomed, an endless dark luster emanated from it, causing even light to disappear. It was so beautiful that it was intoxicating. Thereafter, Mandala stepped into the heart of the flower without giving Lu Heng and the Xia Emperor any time to react. In just a short while, Mandala's figure seemed to have turned into origin energy and fused back into the flower. The two of them blended together like milk and water, becoming inseparable. Mandala and the primordial mandala flower came from the same root. Now that they've fused back together, they were a complete existence. Furthermore, the fusion of their origins had instantly broken through the shackles. Vaguely, there were chants in the sky as the petals unfolded, as if the heavens and earth were rejoicing. Along with a myriad luster, it soared into the clouds along with the pressure of a perfected earth sovereign. At this moment, all the rulers in the Heavenly Emperor's cemetery had a slight change in their faces. There were too many monks and not enough meat. The cake was only so big. Now, there was one more person to share it with, and it was a top predator at that. How could everyone not change their expressions when talking about it? Their attacks and defenses were different. Just a moment ago, it was two Greater Earth sovereigns teaming up against a single Greater Earth sovereign. But now, it was a perfected Earth sovereign. Facing this situation, both the Xia Emperor and Lu Heng could only suffer in silence. Since they're under the eaves, they had no choice but to lower their heads. It's just that the Xia Emperor had given in and Mandala had let them off. But as for Lu Heng, she intended to settle old and new enmity. Lu Heng knew that Mandala would definitely not let him off after what he had done in the past. Facing a perfected Earth Sovereign as a greater Earth Sovereign, he knew that if there weren't any accidents, he might not even be able to escape. But fortunately, he still had a trump card. Without waiting for Mandala to make a move, Lu Heng took a step forward and punched out with his fist. Boom! A vast amount of spiritual energy swept out like an intercontinental missile. However, it was strange that his fist wasn't directed at Mandala or Mu Chun, but toward the hovering mountain peak not far away. Seeing this scene, the others still had no idea what was going on, but Mu Chun and Mandala had already vaguely felt that something was amiss. They knew that Lu Heng would not speak without thinking. Fang Qingshan was the only one who knew what Lu Heng was going to do. He was looking forward to it. After all, there were so many floating mountains, and he did not know which one was the burial place of the Heaven Sovereign and the Demon Sovereign. If he could not find their corpses, how could he obtain the one-breath Sanqing? Lu Heng's unexpected move naturally attracted everyone's attention as they looked in the direction of his attack. The floating mountain was powerless against Lu Heng's attack, and the entire mountain was reduced to dust in the blink of an eye. What's that? However, through the dust, the crowd almost cried out in surprise, because inside the mountain, a spacious plaza had appeared in front of everyone. Naturally, the plaza wasn't the main point. The main point was that there was a majestic silhouette that emanated a boundless aura. Even a perfected Earth Sovereign would be akin to a firefly before him. Although the silhouette didn't move, just by standing there, he was the center of the universe. He instantly attracted everyone's gazes, causing people to involuntarily feel a sense of submission. The Heavenly Emperor. Seeing this scene, how could the crowd not know who this person was? Why did so many people come to the ancient Haven Palace? Wasn't it for the one-breath Sanqing and the inheritance of the Heavenly Emperor? At this moment, when they saw the figure of the Sky Emperor, how could they still hold back? One by one, like old cats smelling salted fish, they rushed toward the square one after another. As if they were the first to act, they would be the last to act. Fang Qingshan was naturally amongst them. When they came to the plaza, they realized that aside from the Heavenly Emperor's silhouette, there was also a crystal-like longsword beneath the Heavenly Emperor's feet. The longsword was extremely simple, like a coarse sword embryo. However, everyone could sense the terrifying power emanating from the longsword. Fang Qingshan compared the Heavenly Emperor's sword to the pure Yang flying sword. The Heavenly Emperor's sword was truly an existence that surpassed the Saint artifact, and it was even more powerful than the pure Yang flying sword. Then again, that was when the Heavenly Emperor's sword was in the Heavenly Emperor's hands. But right now, with Fang Qingshan's cultivation and abundant spiritual energy, the Heavenly Emperor's sword might not be comparable to his pure Yang flying sword. At this moment, the Heavenly Emperor's sword was stabbed into a half-foot black skull beneath the Heavenly Emperor's feet. That skull looked evil with a single glance, since it was emanating a chilling, ominous aura. Thus, those that weren't aware of the situation would assume that it was the skull of the invading monarch that was killed by the Heavenly Emperor and suppressed by the sword. Out of everyone here, only Lu Heng and Fang Qingshan knew that the Heavenly Emperor wasn't the Heavenly Emperor and the monarch wasn't the monarch either. Fang Qingshan had foresight, while Lu Heng had already been controlled by the Demon Lord. The sudden appearance of the ancient Haven Palace was actually due to Lu Heng's schemes. The Sanqing sword, the inheritance of the Heavenly Emperor, and the Heavenly Emperor's sword that surpassed the Saint artifact. All of this was placed in front of them, and it was so tempting. The crowd, who were already restless, were now completely blinded by their desires. Although they had Mandala's reminder, humans would die in pursuit of wealth, just as birds would die in pursuit of food. Who would listen to her now? Anyone that obstructed them from obtaining the treasures was an enemy. Especially since Mandala was the only perfected Earth Sovereign here, and she was ostracized by everyone. In addition to Lu Heng trying to sow discord, no one would listen to her words. The atmosphere grew heavier, and everyone's breathing became heavier. Their eyes started to burn, their hearts were pounding, and their blood was boiling. At a certain moment, someone couldn't hold it in any longer and charged towards the Heavenly Emperor. In an instant, almost everyone charged towards the Heavenly Emperor's corpse, as if a signal had been sent. Only one person charged towards the Heavenly Emperor's sword, and that person was Fang Qingshan. It wasn't that the others didn't care about it, but that the Heavenly Emperor's sword was stabbed into the monarch's skull, and no one knew what would happen if it was pulled out. They didn't want to test the waters, and they wanted someone else to test it first. If there was no problem, then they could snatch it. They were even more relieved when they saw that the person who snatched the Heavenly Emperor's sword was Fang Qingshan. Even if a person who wasn't even an Earth sovereign had obtained the Heavenly Emperor's sword, it would be a piece of cake for them to suppress him. Chapter 227. Overestimating Yourself. You're courting death. Mandala didn't know who Fang Qingshan was, so she couldn't help sneering at his actions. What's wrong? Mu Chan asked with a trace of curiosity and worry. After all, they had previously extorted Xiaoyu, and Fang Qingshan had even told them about the Heavenly Lake's perfect baptism. He even brought them into the hidden scripture pavilion and gave them the immortal golden body. Didn't you see that the others are only fighting for the Heavenly Emperor's remains and neglected the Heavenly Emperor's sword? Are they all fools? Or are their sights so high that they don't even place the Heavenly Emperor's sword in their eyes? Could it be because of the head of the monarch? Mu Chen guessed. That's right. Which one of them isn't a sly old fox? They're afraid that the Heavenly Emperor's sword is suppressing the monarch, and the first to pull it out will be doomed. So they're hoping for others to be the first, Mandala said indifferently. Doesn't that mean that Brother Fang is in danger? Mu Chen's voice contained a trace of anxiety. Why? You guys know each other? Mandala asked before comforting. Don't worry, the Heavenly Emperor's sword isn't that easy to pull out. Seeing how Mandala wasn't bothered, Mu Chen's worries were slightly relieved. He then asked curiously, does one have to fulfill the conditions to pull out the Heavenly Emperor's sword? That's for sure. Mandala nodded her head and said with pride, the Heavenly Emperor's sword is the sword of the Heavenly Emperor, an existence that has surpassed the Saint artifact. If you want to pull it out, you either have to be stronger than the Heavenly Emperor, or you have to be the Heavenly Emperor himself. Otherwise, don't even think about pulling it out. Indeed, Fang Qingshan came before the Heavenly Emperor's sword and grabbed onto its hilt. He circulated his spiritual energy and pulled it out. However, to everyone's surprise, the Celestial Arch sword did not budge at all despite Fang Qingshan's strength. Instead, a rebounding force burst out and shook Fang Qingshan away. As expected, it doesn't work. Although Fang Qingshan failed to pull the sword out, he wasn't surprised, since he already knew the conditions. However, he didn't think that Mu Chen was the only one who could do it, as he still had the minor destiny art. Therefore, he did not give up. Instead, he walked forward again, placed his hand on the hilt of his sword, and silently activated the little destiny art. Seeing this, Mandala could not help but sneer and shake her head. She was completely disappointed in Fang Qingshan. Is there no one who can successfully draw the sword? The Celestial Arch was already dead. In the entire Great Thousand World, there was almost no one who dared to say that they surpassed the Celestial Arch. Didn't that mean that the Celestial Arch sword had become a decoration? Mu Chen asked curiously. No. Mandala shook her head and gave Mu Chen a profound look. There's still one person who can pull it out. Who? Mu Chen quickly asked. Of course it's you. Mandala did not wait for Mu Chen to ask and immediately explained. Because you've cultivated the immortal golden body, which means that you're the successor of the Heavenly Emperor. Naturally, you've obtained the acknowledgement of the Heavenly Emperor's sword, so it's reasonable for you to pull it out. Just when Mandala explained the conditions to Mu Chen and Fang Qingshan tried his best to pull the sword out, a huge problem occurred for those who were fighting for the Heavenly Emperor's corpse. A group of Earth sovereigns had snatched the Heavenly Emperor's corpse, But before they could collect the inheritance in Sanqing, a sudden change occurred. Ever since Lu Heng had opened the heavenly Thearcha's burial ground, he had been invisible. But now, he suddenly appeared in front of everyone like a ghost. With lightning speed, he killed a lesser Earth Sovereign with a single punch. Before anyone could react, he had already killed 2 more Earth Sovereigns with a single punch. In an instant, blood and flesh filled the sky. Lu Heng, what are you doing? Are you courting death? Lu Heng's actions had clearly enraged everyone. Not to mention a greater Earth Sovereign like him. Even a perfected Earth Sovereign like Mandala could only escape from the encirclement of everyone. They had no idea where Lu Heng got his courage from. Could he be insane? Courting death? Hee, I don't know if I'm going to die, but you guys are definitely going to die today. Lu Heng grinned, but his smile looked extremely sinister at this moment. Thereafter, under everyone's astonished gazes, he waved his hand and sent the Earth Sovereign's flesh into the Heavenly Emperor's mouth. Then, in front of everyone's shocked gazes, the originally dead Celestial Emperor's metamorphosis actually began to revive bit by bit. It was as if it was about to be reborn. With the Heavenly Emperor's means, no one would be too surprised if he could come back to life. However, this method was far too horrifying. He was actually swallowing flesh and blood. This was not something that a mighty Celestial Emperor could do. No matter how one looked at it, it was strange and evil. Not good. Everyone, stop him. He's not the Heavenly Emperor, but the monarch. Mandala was the most familiar with the Heavenly Emperor, so she immediately sensed that something was amiss. He's trying to revive the monarch. Lu Heng, this is all your scheme. Everyone, let's attack together. As she spoke, Mandala immediately shot out explosively. With a wave of her hand, a vast dark light shot toward the Demon Emperor. It's too late. Lu Heng squinted his eyes at Mandala's actions, but he did not stop her. Indeed, the monarch had not been fully revived, but he knew how to avoid harm. Sensing that Mandala wasn't easy to deal with, he immediately picked a pushover. The monarch dodged Mandala's attack and turned into a streak of light to engage in guerrilla warfare. His strength had yet to fully recover, so it was a little strenuous for him to deal with Mandala. But it wasn't a problem for the other lesser, middle, and greater Earth Sovereigns. Space was torn apart and a black light flashed. Any Earth Sovereign that was enveloped by the black light couldn't even let out a shriek before they heard a series of crackling noises. After the black light left, not to mention people, not even dregs were left. They were all devoured by the monarch. Furthermore, every time he devoured an Earth Sovereign, the monarch would recover a portion of his strength. Everyone, watch out. Everyone was terrified at this scene, fearing that they would be targeted by the monarch. However, Mandala grew anxious in her heart. That's because the monarch wouldn't give her a chance to fight, and she couldn't catch up to the monarch. Thus, she could only watch as the Earth Sovereigns died and the monarch's strength grew. Mu Chun, quick, pull out the Heavenly Emperor's sword. Only he can stop the monarch from reviving. Mandala sent a voice transmission to Mu Chun as she chased after the monarch. She knew that the only thing that could stop the monarch from reviving was the Heavenly Emperor's sword, and Mu Chun was the only one that could pull it out. If the monarch revived, then everyone here would die. Chapter 228. Destiny's Power, You're Everywhere. You're the wheel of fate, and you're constantly spinning. I summon you in the name of destiny. Heavenly Emperor's sword, come out. Just when the Demon Emperor was awakening and everyone was in chaos, a surge of destiny's power descended and the Heavenly Emperor's sword started to tremble. Clang! A clear and resonant sword cry resounded in the world at this moment. However, the Heavenly Emperor sword wasn't the same as the hidden scripture pavilion or the divine ability cultivation technique. It was an existence that surpassed the saint artifact and was also a killing weapon. Destiny's power might be powerful, but the Heavenly Emperor's sword was still resisting instinctively. Therefore, Fang Qingshan didn't draw the Heavenly Emperor's sword immediately. But even so, Lu Heng, Mandala, and the Demon Emperor were greatly moved by the Heavenly Emperor's sword's movements. Lu Heng thought that only the Heavenly Emperor himself could draw the Heavenly Emperor's sword. Therefore, he wasn't too bothered when he saw Fong Qingshan fiddling with it. To the demon emperor, the heavenly emperor's sword was his nemesis. How could the heavenly emperor sword awaken like him? Mandala, on the other hand, felt even more disbelief. She initially thought that aside from Muchan, there wouldn't be anyone else that could successfully pull out the sword. Earlier, she was still ridiculing Fong Qingshan for overestimating his own capabilities and not knowing the difference between life and death. But from the looks of it now, she was the one who was ignorant and inexperienced. No matter what they thought, the Heavenly Emperor's sword's movements instantly attracted everyone's attention. Lu Heng and the Demon Emperor naturally wanted to stop Fong Qingshan from successfully drawing the Heavenly Emperor's sword. Mandala, Muchun, and the rest naturally hoped that Fong Qingshan would succeed quickly so that they could stop Lu Heng and the Demon Emperor from disturbing him. They were in a deadlock and had forgotten that there was someone else around. Because of the Demon Emperor's ferocity, everyone was in a state of panic and had to hide like stray dogs. There was no road to heaven, no door to hell. Not only could they not summon anyone, but they also couldn't leave. That's because there was a layer of black light covering the plaza, preventing everyone from leaving or spreading news. Seeing Fong Qingshan's actions, the crowd, who had been in the depths of despair, suddenly felt as though they had seen hope. They all lunged at Fong Qingshan, trying to snatch the celestial Arch Sword. This was an existence that surpassed holy artifacts, and since the Demon Emperor had already appeared, there was no danger. Since Fong Qingshan could pull it out, so could they. If they had the celestial Arch Sword, it wouldn't be easy for even a demon arch to kill them. Men die for wealth, and birds die for food. At this moment, everyone went crazy. It was for the sake of survival, but also for the sake of greed. Damn it! Seeing this scene, Mandala and the others were almost hopping mad. The Demon Emperor had not been dealt with yet, and these people were already starting to have internal strife. They really couldn't help Luodu. It's fine if you're courting death, but don't drag us down with you. Unfortunately, no matter how anxious they were, they couldn't change the outcome. Ha ha! Looks like you guys won't be able to escape today. Lu Heng and the Demon Lord couldn't help but burst into laughter. Although they didn't know what method Fong Qingshan used, they knew that this was an exception. No one else could pull out the celestial Arch Sword like Fong Qingshan did. They had guessed the beginning, but they didn't know the ending. Be it Mandala and the others, Lu Heng or the Demon Lord, they had all subconsciously ignored Fong Qingshan's strength. However, was Fong Qingshan really that easy to bully? You're courting death. Fong Qingshan was depleting his lifespan at every moment, and he was in a stalemate with the celestial Arch Sword. These people actually didn't know what was good for them and wanted to take advantage of the situation. Since you guys want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Clang! Clang! Two ancient sword cries resounded in the sky at this moment. Sword light wreaked havoc, and a single sword froze the land. Behind Fong Qingshan, two huge suns rose into the sky, and two rays of light poured down. These were the two pure Yang flying swords in Fong Qingshan's hands. Except for the last time in a mortal world, when he had to deal with the experts of the Tai sect, Fong Qingshan had never used these two flying swords. The pure Yang flying sword were upper Grey Dao weapons. With Fong Qingshan's current cultivation, he could barely unleash the full power of one of them. The consumption of two swords was too terrifying, and even with the World Tree as a supply station, it was too late. Fortunately, this time, Fong Qingshan had devoured a lot of spiritual power from the Heavenly River, so he could give it his all. The spiritual power stored in the World Tree was poured into the two pure Yang flying swords, and in an instant, their power was finally fully unleashed. Two suns competing for glory. 10,000 feet of sword radiance surged, and the pure Yang aura surged. The two flying swords turned into two primordial divine dragons, flying back and forth in the sky. Clouds protected their bodies, and their heads were like scissors, and their tails were like a pair of scissors, cutting at the people rushing over. Not good, retreat. Seeing this scene, the people who had been blinded by lust finally came to their senses. They fled as fast as they came, but it was a pity that it was too late. The speed of the swords was so fast that they had practically passed through their bodies the moment they turned around. In the path of the swords, the entire sky was in a state of relative stillness. Aside from a few greater Earth sovereigns, as well as those at the back, everyone else was frozen in the sky. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew and a rain of blood descended. Everyone that was left behind had all exploded into a bloody mist. The rain of blood was a perfect illustration of this scene. Seeing this scene, those that managed to escape rejoiced, but at the same time, they couldn't help feeling fearful. Even Mandala and the monarch couldn't help narrowing their eyes. When the two high-ranked saint artifacts exploded, even they didn't dare to go against them. MHM, the heavens are helping me. Thereafter, the monarch rejoiced before he opened his mouth and sucked, turning into the mouth of a tautai that devoured the flesh and blood. Not good. Seeing this scene, Mandala and those that survived were shocked. If the monarch digested the flesh and blood of so many Earth sovereigns, they wouldn't be able to survive. At this moment, even Mandala could not help but start to blame Fong Qingshan, who asked his actions to give the Demon Emperor an opportunity to take advantage of. Heavenly Emperor Sword, do you see this? The monarch is about to awaken, and you're still not submitting? Are you going to betray the will of the Heavenly Emperor? Seeing the scene of the monarch devouring the flesh and blood, Fong Qingshan felt as if his heart was being squeezed. He circulated his destiny energy and berated the Heavenly Emperor's sword. It was unknown whether it was the power of destiny, Fong Qingshan's words, or the stimulation from the pure yang flying sword and the revival of the Demon Lord, but the celestial Dharch sword, which had been struggling and resisting at first, finally acknowledged Fong Qingshan completely and stopped resisting. Chapter 229. Buzz. There was no need for Fong Qingshan to activate it. The Heavenly Emperor's sword seemed to contain boundless energy. However, a white light flashed, and everyone could only see a blazing white in front of them, and then they could not see anything. When they could see again, they saw millions of crystalline sword luster spreading out. Although the sword luster wasn't sharp, every single one of them contained a fearsome might, especially those that had just stepped into the Earth Sovereign realm. They even felt the threat of death. If a single sword light was already so powerful, what kind of power would it be when hundreds of millions of them gathered together? Even the pure yang flying sword that had competed for glory for 2 days would not be able to compare to it. Everyone could only see a ray of light sweeping across the void without a trace. It seemed that the Heavenly Emperor's sword had appeared in front of the Demon Lord with Fong Qingshan. Rainbow pierces the sun. The Heavenly Emperor's sword trembled and was about to pierce through the Demon Lord's chest to seal him again. Buzz. However, the Demon Lord wasn't someone to be trifled with. He was an old enemy of the Heavenly Emperor's sword. He was already prepared when the Heavenly Emperor's sword was unsheathed. The Heavenly Emperor's sword was just inches away from his chest. He could even feel the sharpness of the sword on his skin. He did not know what technique he used to stop the celestial Dharch sword that was coming at him ferociously. However, it was so short that even Mandala didn't notice it. Only Fong Qingshan, as the owner of the Heavenly Emperor's sword, felt a slight resistance. But a moment later, the sword pierced into his body without any hesitation. However, Fong Qingshan's face suddenly sank. The person who was pierced by the Heavenly Emperor's sword wasn't the Demon Lord, but Lu Heng. It turned out that in that split second, the Demon Lord had swapped places with Lu Heng and allowed him to take the fall instead of the Demon Lord. What was even more terrifying was that the Demon Lord's eyes had already opened. His eyes were pitch black and contained the most evil aura in the world. His body emitted an aura that was even more powerful than Mandala's. It was the aura of a Heavenly Supreme. You've done well. The Demon Lord took a deep breath and enjoyed the feeling of being reborn. He then patted Lu Heng's shoulder and smiled warmly. Don't worry. As the hero who revived me, how could I let you die in vain? Then, his palm on Lu Heng's shoulder was like a flood that had opened the floodgates. A vast amount of pitch-black demon chi poured out, not only healing Lu Heng's injuries, but also transforming him into a demon from the outer domain. I also have to thank you. If it wasn't for that sword strike of yours, I don't know how long it would have taken for me to recover. After transforming Lu Heng, the demon lord turned to look at Fang Qingshan. He did not sound resentful towards the person who had almost sealed him. Instead, he sounded grateful. Although they knew that the demon emperor was trying to sow discord, the remaining people couldn't help but look at Fang Qingshan in a different light. Because, indeed, Fang Qingshan's existence had become a catalyst for the demon emperor's revival. Thank me? I hope you can always thank me, Fang Qingshan said indifferently. Facing the gazes of others, Fang Qingshan wasn't bothered. He wasn't a person of this world. Their opinions wouldn't hurt him in the slightest. As for ganging up on him, Fang Qingshan smiled. Because of the previous 2 days, these people probably had evil intentions, but they didn't have the guts to do so. Actually, Fang Qingshan could have hidden in the dark and watched Mu Chen's performance. But after a brief consideration, he decided to take the initiative. Because of Mu Chen's promise, he wouldn't compete with him for the Sanqing. But that could only represent his subjective opinion. What if the Heavenly Emperor wanted to pass it to him? He didn't take the initiative to compete for it, nor did he go against his oath. After all, he had the halo of protagonist. Furthermore, if he didn't show off, how could he let others know that he was qualified to inherit this peerless divine ability? Could it be that the Sanqing divine ability was a Taoist divine ability that was compatible with his aura? But what if it wasn't? Furthermore, the Heavenly Emperor's sword surpassed the Tao artifact and was a saint artifact. If Mu Chen obtained it, he could only be envious. Of course, there was another point, and that was that if Fang Qingshan could seal or even kill the Demon Emperor, that would be a great service to the heavens and earth, and he would be blessed with karmic luck. You're actually not afraid? The Demon Emperor couldn't help asking in surprise when he saw Fang Qingshan's unmoving expression and heartbeat. Afraid? Are you? Fang Qingshan chuckled. If you were at your peak, I would have gone as far as I could. But now, Fang Qingshan paused and looked the Demon Emperor up and down before speaking in an unhurried manner. You've been suppressed by the Heavenly Emperor for many years and have just awakened. Although you've devoured the flesh and blood of many Earth sovereigns, you've only just recovered the strength of a heavenly sovereign. You're still very weak. You're right. The Demon Emperor took a deep look at Fang Qingshan and did not deny it. But you must know that even if I've just recovered the strength of a heavenly sovereign, I'm not someone that you guys can confront. What can you rely on? The Heavenly Emperor's sword? Or that little lass? If you rely on a mountain, the mountain will fall. If you rely on water, the water will flow. If you rely on people to walk, then you rely on him. Fang Qingshan took out an item with a flip of his hand, opened it, and threw it at the Demon Emperor as he retreated. One of the chess pieces grew with the wind, and in an instant, it turned into an existence like the sky-flipping seal, with the words 3 kingdoms engraved on it. It pressed down on the Demon Emperor, and within it, one could vaguely see a world floating and sinking. Yes, the chess piece that Fang Qingshan had tossed out was the chess piece that represented the 3 kingdoms in the all-heaven chessboard. The highest level of the 3 kingdoms was already close to immortality. So how powerful was the suppression of a world? The Demon Emperor's face drastically changed. He didn't have time to think or dodge, so he immediately roared, "Demonic world!" In an instant, the world changed and the stars moved. The land within a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers was instantly transformed into demonic soil. Viscous demonic chi rose up continuously. At this moment, this place didn't seem to be the ancient Haven Palace, but the demonic land. In the demonic soil, I am the ruler. Sky-devouring annihilation palm. After turning everything within a few 100,000 miles into demonic soil, the Demon Emperor did not stop, but used the power of the demonic soil to execute his divine ability. Buzz! In that instant, it was as if all the power of the demonic soil had been mobilized. As the demonic clouds surged, they condensed into a massive hand that covered the sky. It was jade black in color and had a total of 13 fingers, all of which were slim and slender. When the palm flew out, An ancient demonic voice could be vaguely heard, along with heavenly demons, Rakshasa, and ferocious beasts. In the path of the demonic hand, space shattered and turned into a black hole that devoured everything that fell into it. Chapter 230. What a powerful divine ability. Fang Qingshan couldn't help taking a deep breath and shook his head. What a pity. If the Demon Emperor were to display this divine ability at his peak, it would really have earth-shattering power. Just looking at it now, Fang Qingshan felt his scalp go numb. Even if he took out the pure yang dual swords, the best outcome against this demon palm would be severe injuries. It was no wonder that, with the foundation of the vast thousand domains, when faced with the invasion of the fiend race, it was actually so tragic. Fortunately, things have changed with the passage of time. Things remain the same, but people have changed. The divine ability is still the same divine ability, and the person is still the same person, but in the end, he is not at his peak condition. Furthermore, the pawn of the three empires contained the power of an entire world. Even if the Demon Emperor was at his peak, he would not dare to underestimate this attack, let alone the fact that he had only just awakened and had yet to recover from his injuries and strength. Boom! When the demonic hand clashed against the chess pieces of the three kingdoms, an indescribable power instantly exploded, causing the entire heavens and earth to distort. The torrential demonic aura was practically evaporated in an instant. The demonic hand was like a giant. Although it lifted the three kingdoms' world, it only lasted for a brief moment before a crackling noise resounded. Thereafter, the crackling noise seemed to be contagious. Cracks spread out like spiderwebs before it shattered into pieces. At the back, the top powerhouses of the Great Law Continent, who were still grumbling about Fang Qingshan awakening the monarch so quickly, including Mandala, couldn't help but stare dumbfounded at everything before them. Who was that? The fiend monarch, a ferocious figure that the heavenly emperor barely managed to suppress with the Sanqing divine ability back then. What about Fang Qingshan? He wasn't even an earth sovereign, but he had actually created a world. How ferocious was that? It was especially so now that the terrifying attack of the devouring sky devil emperor had been crushed into dregs. Although the monarch had yet to recover to his peak, this outcome had refreshed their worldview. But soon after, the crowd couldn't suppress the ecstasy in their hearts. The reason why they complained, and even resented Fang Qingshan, was because they couldn't resist the demon emperor and could only watch helplessly as they walked towards death. But now that Fang Qingshan was so powerful, they saw hope. The demon emperor was not invincible, and they still had a chance to live. Regardless of what the others thought, the chess pieces of the three kingdoms paused for a moment after breaking through the demonic palm. Then, they continued to press down on the demon emperor without losing any momentum. The moment the demon hand caught the chess piece, the demon emperor cursed in his heart. He had thought it was just the power of an artifact, but he hadn't expected it to actually be a minor thousand world. Moreover, the power of this minor thousand world wasn't weak. Of course, if it was in the past, not to mention the minor thousand worlds, even the great thousand worlds would tremble under their iron hooves. Unfortunately, a dragon in the shallows would be toyed with by shrimps, and a tiger in the plains would be bullied by dogs. The sky-devouring monarch's face drastically changed with shock in his eyes. Thereafter, he retreated without any hesitation, and the boundless demonic aura formed a barrier in front of him. However, it wasn't of much use. Wherever the chess pieces passed, the millions of demonic chi barriers were no different from layers of bubbles, bursting with a single touch. Although the demon emperor retreated very quickly, his chess piece seemed to be moving slowly, but it was actually very fast. It caught up to the demon emperor even though it had started later. Boom! Instantly, the heavens and earth trembled, and the space that the devouring sky monarch was in had been shattered into nothingness. The torrential demonic aura had also been crushed into nothingness by the massive force, and had completely disappeared. The chess pieces of the three kingdoms disappeared, leaving behind only a space of nothingness. It was like a black hole, and nothing was left. Even Hongjun Tiandao couldn't recover in time. When the top-tiered powerhouses of the Great Law Continent saw this scene, they couldn't help gulping down a mouthful of saliva with shock in their eyes. Thinking about how they wanted to snatch food from Fang Qingshan's hands, everyone instantly felt cold sweat on their backs. First, the two high-rank Saint artifacts were unleashed, and now, this chess piece could even kill a heavenly sovereign. They had no idea where Fang Qingshan came from to be so terrifying. But regardless of where Fang Qingshan came from, there shouldn't be a problem as long as they didn't provoke him. Now that the Demon Emperor was dead, their lives were no longer in danger. However, the crowd did not have the time to cheer. All of them froze on the spot. That's because the space that was suppressed by the chess pieces of the three kingdoms suddenly distorted and a silhouette materialized. Although it looked pitiful, the surface of its body was covered in cracks, looking like a shattered porcelain doll. But it was still a Demon Emperor, not to mention that the Demon Emperor wasn't dead yet. At this moment, everyone from the Great Law Continent subconsciously gulped down a mouthful of saliva. It's truly an unkillable cockroach. At the sight of this, Fang Qingshan was slightly taken aback. After all, the suppression of an entire world did not manage to crush him into pieces. But it wasn't too surprising. After all, if the Fiend Monarch was that easy to kill, the Heavenly Emperor wouldn't have failed back then. Fortunately, even though the Demon Emperor had survived the pressure of the world, he was still heavily injured, and his aura had fallen to the Earth's supreme realm. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. The devouring Sky Monarch's eyes turned red as he stared at Fang Qingshan. When had he, the devouring Heaven Demon Emperor, ever suffered such a huge loss? Even when he faced the Sky Emperor in the past, he was not in such a sorry state when he fought 1 against 3. But today, he actually failed in the hands of Fang Qingshan, who hadn't even broken through to the Earth's sovereign realm. That was simply a great humiliation. This time, the Demon Emperor did not self-destruct and escape as he had planned when facing the Flame Emperor. That's because the Flame Emperor was someone that he might not be able to deal with at his peak. If he continued fighting, only death would await him. But Fang Qingshan wasn't the same. He wasn't even in the Earth's sovereign realm. So even if he executed that attack, the monarch didn't believe that he could do it a second time. Thus, he did not flee. He wasn't willing to accept this, and he wanted to take revenge. Die! The devouring Sky Monarch roared as he turned into a streak of light and charged towards Fang Qingshan. Shit dodge. Aside from a monarch, the perfected Earth Sovereign Realm Manello had the highest cultivation here. Seeing the monarch going berserk, his face instantly drained of color, and he immediately warned Fang Qingshan before waving his hand, and a dark light shot towards the monarch. Chapter 231. Even if the Demon Emperor was heavily injured and his cultivation had fallen to the perfected Earth Supreme Realm, his strength was still the best among everyone present. Even a perfected Earth Supreme Realm like Manello couldn't compare to him, not to mention Fang Qingshan, who hadn't even reached the Earth Supreme Realm yet. Just like the Demon Emperor, be it the pure Yang flying swords from before or the world chess pieces from before, they were all powerful trump cards that could decide the outcome of a peerless battle. Moreover, such trump cards were generally rare and should not be used unless it was absolutely necessary. It was already a blessing for ordinary people to have one such trump card. Fang Qingshan had used 2, which was already a blessing from the heavens. However, one could not be more than 2. Neither the Demon Emperor nor Manello believed that Fang Qingshan still had trump cards. Therefore, the Demon Emperor brazenly attacked Fang Qingshan, wanting to completely annihilate this person who had humiliated him. Manello tried to stop the Demon Emperor at the same time and remind Fang Qingshan to dodge. Unfortunately, distant water couldn't quench present thirst. The Demon Emperor attacked too quickly. Although Manello reminded and even tried to stop him, he could only do his best and leave it to fate. He couldn't help but feel pity for Fang Qingshan, because he knew that if there were no accidents, Fang Qingshan would definitely die. So the question was, would there be any accidents? The answer was yes. Against the Demon Emperor, Fang Qingshan didn't let his guard down at all. Not to mention that the Heavenly Emperor had suppressed him for so many years and even gave him a chance to resurrect. Even if he fought with the Flame Emperor according to the original trajectory, although he suffered a great loss, if it wasn't for the martial ancestor, he might really have escaped. Therefore, once the Demon Emperor attacked, Fang Qingshan already had a way to deal with it. Fang Qingshan brazenly took out the Heavenly Emperor's sword in his hand. Buzz! Fang Qingshan let out a long roar and became one with the sword. His entire body emitted a shocking sharpness. In an instant, thousands of sword lights gathered, crystal clear, and an indescribably terrifying sword intent rose and shattered the void. Demon extermination, demon extermination, demon extermination. The air was filled with murderous cries. Where the sword light pointed, the space was split into two, as though it was opening up a path for the protector beast. Tens of thousands of meters of sword light descended, directly aiming for the Devil Emperor who was shooting over, unstoppable and indestructible. The Demon Emperor in Manello had forgotten that Fang Qingshan still had the Celestial Arch Sword. This was an existence that surpassed holy artifacts, and it was the bane of demon emperors. The most important thing was that it contained abundant spiritual power, so there was no need for Fang Qingshan to activate it, and it could directly erupt with absolute power. Clang! It was akin to a bell being rung, accompanied by dazzling light. Aside from Greater Earth sovereigns, no one could tell what was going on. More importantly, they had long since avoided it. However, just like before, they still felt their bodies tremble. The sound of the collision was too loud, causing their souls to tremble. Their minds instantly went blank. Forget about looking at the details. Even their thoughts stopped at this moment. Damn it, damn Celestial Arch Sword. I'll destroy you sooner or later. The Demon Emperor never expected the Celestial Arch Sword. Under the flickering sword light, the demonic aura around him melted like snow meeting the spring sun. Seeing that Manello was about to charge over, and Fang Qingshan had the Celestial Arch Sword in his hand, the Demon Emperor's face was filled with rage and unwillingness. Where there's life, there's hope. Let's go. The Demon Emperor was also a decisive person. He knew that if he didn't make a decision, he would be in trouble. He had just revived, so he couldn't afford to be heavily injured. If there were any accidents, then the tens of thousands of years that he had planned to revive would all go to waste. Thus, he clenched his teeth and retracted the demonic aura around him before he turned around and flew out of the ancient sky. Wait for me, I'll be back. Escape? You're still thinking of escaping at this moment? Dream on. Fang Qingshan had long been on guard against the Demon Emperor's escape, so he couldn't help sneering when he saw the Demon Emperor's actions. The Demon Emperor had turned into a streak of light and broke through space. Thereafter, it swiftly flew out of the Heavenly Emperor's cemetery at a shocking speed. Everyone couldn't help feeling anxious. The devouring Sky Monarch's half-crippled state had already made them helpless. Once he escaped and recovered, it would simply be a disaster for the entire Great Thousand World. Releasing the tiger back into the mountains would only bring about endless troubles. But it was a pity that no one dared to stop him. Even if the Demon Emperor's state couldn't be any worse, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. The rulers of the Great Law continent all cherished their lives. Fortunately, just as the Demon Emperor was about to escape, just as the sky was high and the sea was wide, a rain of peach blossoms began to fall from the sky. Unknowingly, a layer of rainbow membrane had appeared in the sky of the Heavenly Emperor's cemetery. This membrane had enveloped this space, as if it was a barrier that had completely sealed this space. It turned out that Fang Qingshan had already brought out the 5 Cloud Peach Blossom Miasma to seal this space. The 5 Cloud Peach Blossom Miasma had just broken through to the Tao artifact, which was equivalent to a low-grade defensive Saint artifact. Not only did this membrane look thin, but it wasn't unshakable. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan had no intention of using the 5 Cloud Peach Blossom Miasma to obstruct the Demon Emperor. He only wanted to buy some time. Sure enough, the The Demon Emperor didn't expect that there would be someone else who thought the same as him, who had set up a blockade in the sky. Plunging into the five-cloud peach blossom miasma, the Demon Emperor's momentum was instantly halted. Not good. Just when this thought rose in his mind, the five-cloud peach blossom miasma suddenly retracted and turned into layers of silk nets that wrapped around the Demon Emperor. Break! Who was the Demon Emperor? Even if he was in a dire situation, a low-grade saint artifact wouldn't be able to restrain him. The demonic aura surged, and he immediately broke free. When he flew out of the five-cloud peach blossom miasma, he was stabbed by the heavenly Dharch sword. No! The demonic aura surged, and a hideous, demonic face appeared. The Demon Emperor roared with despair. When he was stabbed by the heavenly Dharch sword, a powerful force instantly surged into the Demon Emperor's body and sealed his power. Everyone was dazzled by the twists and turns of events, but they could finally heave a sigh of relief. As Fang Qingshan put away the Demon Emperor and the heavenly Dharch sword, everyone, including Minello and Mu Chun, looked at him with complicated expressions. In the beginning, no one placed Fang Qingshan, who wasn't even an Earth sovereign, in their eyes. They even wanted him to lead the way. However, they never expected that it would be this person that everyone looked down on that turned the tide and saved everyone. Fang Qingshan did not care about what these people thought. Currently, he was in a great mood because he had sealed the Demon Emperor again. He had done a great service to the heavens and earth, causing fate to descend from the sky. A fate golden dragon on the all-heavens chessboard roared towards the sky, giving off waves of joyful dragon cries. Chapter 232. This trip is worth it. Sensing the changes in his body, Fang Qingshan could not help but smile. His efforts to seal the Demon Lord and use the chess pieces of the heavens were not in vain. Disregarding everything else, he had made great contributions to heaven and earth, received the favor of Hongjun Tiandao, and was blessed with good karma. Because he was not from this world, the somewhat repressed situation had been completely changed. From then on, Fang Qingshan was truly accepted by this world. More importantly, such a large amount of karma was not inferior to his unification of the three kingdoms. As expected, the Fiend race was the mortal enemy of the vast thousand domains, and the Demon Lord was an outstanding figure and leader among them. Sealing him would bring great benefits. Apart from karma, the sealed Demon Lord himself was an indescribable treasure. Disregarding whether he could pry out any divine powers from the Demon Lord's mouth, he could use him for cultivation, alchemy, and refining weapons. Fang Han had only obtained the palm of an immortal giant, and with the help of Elder Tianxing and the others, he had transformed Shui Sangxiong into a Dao weapon. The devouring Demon Lord in Fang Qingshan's hands was obviously not comparable to those demon gods who had just entered the longevity mystic realm. At its peak, it was probably more powerful than Feng Baiyu and the Greater One Sect experts who had ambushed him previously. If he could purify it, Fang Qingshan was excited just thinking about it. Seems like I have to get the Great Salvation technique as soon as possible when I return, Fang Qingshan thought to himself. Fang Qingshan took this matter to heart and temporarily stopped thinking about it. Instead, he walked towards the only blackhead in the square that no one had touched. Fang Qingshan had long become the focus of the crowd, and every move he made was watched. When everyone saw that he had a solemn expression on his face, they couldn't help but be a little shocked. However, they all knew that Fang Qingshan always had a goal in mind and would not do useless things. Therefore, no one said anything and just watched quietly. Purify. Fang Qingshan placed the celestial Dharch sword on the black skull. In a split second, a majestic force gushed out of the heavenly Dharch sword and rushed toward the black skeleton. Then, a shocking scene appeared. As the heavenly Dharch sword's power washed over it, the pitch-black head melted rapidly, and traces of demonic aura evaporated. The head melted and turned into a crystal-clear light. The light gradually converged, and a silhouette appeared. This figure was exactly the same as the one the Demon Emperor had transformed into. The only difference was probably the expression in his eyes. The eyes of the Devil Emperor were pitch black, as if they contained evil. The eyes of this figure were filled with sorrow, as well as a deep love for this world. I didn't expect that after tens of thousands of years, I would still be able to see this world. Back then, I sacrificed myself to suppress the demons, but I still failed at the last moment. In the end, I still have to rely on this little fellow. The white-robed figure looked around. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce through the ancient Haven Palace and see the outside world. He sighed and turned to Fong Qingshan with a smile. If it wasn't for senior sacrifice, how could we be here today? Fong Qingshan shook his head and bowed towards the Heavenly Emperor. I never expected that you would obtain the acknowledgement of the Heavenly, the Arch-Sword. What a pity. The Heavenly Emperor shook his head as he looked at Mu Chun. He could sense that Mu Chun had successfully cultivated the immortal golden body. Since the monarch could leave Lu Hong behind, how could the Heavenly Emperor not have any preparations? The immortal golden body was a trump card that he had left behind. However, it was a pity that he did not use it in the end. On the other hand, Fong Qingshan managed to seal the demon. Colluding with the outer domain and betraying the Heavenly Palace is a crime worthy of death. The Celestial Arch waved his hand, and the Celestial Arch sword flew out from Fong Qingshan's hand and landed in his hand. He then slashed at Lu Hong, who was hiding in a corner. A sharp sword aura pierced through the heavens and earth as an ancient crystal sword descended. In an instant, it pierced through Lu Heng's head and nailed him to the ground. All right, all good things must come to an end. It's time for everyone to leave. The Heavenly Emperor said to everyone from the Great Law Continent, without giving them any time to react. As soon as he finished speaking, the space around him fluctuated, and many top experts turned into streams of light, streaking across the sky and leaving. The Heavenly Emperor had used the restrictions of the ancient Haven Palace to expel them. Right now, only Fong Qingshan, Mu Chun, Manello, Lin Jing, Xiao Xiao, and 9 Nether remained in the ancient Haven Palace. The Heavenly Emperor looked at the 6 of them before his gaze fell onto Fong Qingshan and Mu Chun. One of you has obtained the acknowledgement of the Heavenly Emperor's sword and sealed the demon, while the other has cultivated the immortal golden body and is my successor. It's a pity that I can only impart it to one person. Mu Chun looked at Fong Qingshan with a bitter smile before he took a deep breath and said to the Heavenly Emperor, "It's already my fortune to be able to obtain the immortal golden body. Brother Fong has done a lot to seal the demon, so the Heavenly Emperor should impart it to him." Oh, the Heavenly Emperor naturally had no idea that Mu Chun had made an oath, so he was shocked that Mu Chun would give up on the peerless divine ability like San Qing. However, Fong Qingshan's performance was pretty good, so the Heavenly Emperor nodded his head and turned to Fong Qingshan. "What about you? I will not pass on this responsibility," Fong Qingshan said decisively, facing the sky Emperor's gaze. "Good." The Heavenly Emperor inwardly praised after listening to Fong Qingshan's words. "The 3 pure ones with one spirit needs to be imparted to you. That way, not only will you be able to obtain the cultivation method, you'll also be able to obtain a lot of my cultivation experience. Only then will you be able to cultivate it in the shortest time possible." The Heavenly Emperor said to Fong Qingshan, "I can't hold on for much longer, so I'll complete the importation soon. Since you guys are here, then I can't let you guys return empty-handed." As he spoke, the Heavenly Emperor shifted his gaze back to Mu Chun's group of 5, especially Mu Chun and Manello. Mu Chun had cultivated the immortal golden body, so he could be considered as his successor. As for Manello, he was the one who planted her, so she was equivalent to his daughter. For them, the Heavenly Emperor naturally had to leave some good stuff behind. Lin Jing, Xiao Xiao, and 9 Nether only benefited from it. The Heavenly Emperor waved his hand and streaks of light flew out of the ancient Haven Palace and landed in the hands of Mu Chun's group of 5. Take a good look at it when you guys go back. His gaze lingered on Manello for a brief moment. The Heavenly Emperor waved his hand and activated the ancient Haven Palace's array to send them out. Sigh. The Heavenly Emperor let out a long sigh. This was the last time they would meet, so he couldn't help but feel emotional. All right, let's go. Fortunately, he quickly restrained his feelings and waved his hand, causing the surrounding space to warp. When he opened his eyes, he was already above a vast river, and the river water below him roiled and emitted surging sounds. At the same time, a seemingly material mist of spirit rose up and transformed into the form of dragons, phoenixes, tigers, and leopards. Chapter 233. The Heavenly Lake. That's right, this was the Heavenly Lake that Fong Qingshan and the rest experienced the perfect baptism. After Fong Qingshan and the rest left, the Heavenly Lake was closed and would only reopen when the ancient Haven Palace opened again. But who asked the Heavenly Emperor to be the true owner of the ancient Haven Palace? With him around, there's naturally no need for them to follow the rules. MHM. When the Heavenly Emperor came to the Heavenly Lake, he widened his eyes. What did he discover? The ancient Haven Palace hadn't been opened for tens of thousands of years, and the Heavenly Lake hadn't been opened for tens of thousands of years. However, the situation that appeared in front of him was extremely strange. The amount of spirits in the Heavenly Lake was even lesser than before the ancient Haven Palace suffered the calamity. Not to mention the water level of the Heavenly Lake, which had reached a new low in history. This wasn't something that happened even when the ancient Haven Palace was at its peak. What's going on? The Heavenly Emperor knitted his brows as he released his spiritual sense to check, but he couldn't find anything. Heavenly Emperor, what's wrong? Fong Qingshan looked at the Heavenly Emperor and inwardly felt relieved. He was extremely familiar with the Heavenly Lake, so when he sensed that the Heavenly Emperor had brought him here, Fong Qingshan immediately got the World Tree to retract its tentacles. Fortunately, he was quick to retract it. Otherwise, he might really be caught by the Heavenly Emperor. It's fine, it's just that the spiritual energy in the Heavenly Lake is too little. The Heavenly Emperor casually replied, "Oh, it must be because the baptism has exhausted too much spiritual energy. After all, there were 5 that received the perfect baptism." Fong Qingshan gave an answer. 5 that received the perfect baptism. The Heavenly Emperor was still pondering about the loss of spiritual energy in the Heavenly Lake, so he was instantly startled when he heard Fong Qingshan's words. The perfect baptism. There were so many geniuses in the ancient Haven Palace, but there weren't many that could receive the perfect baptism. But he never expected that after tens of thousands of years, the ancient Haven Palace had already been destroyed. Yet, there were actually 5 people that could receive the perfect baptism at the same time. Yemi Muchun, Xiao Xiao, Lin Jing, and 9 other have all received the perfect baptism. Fong Qingshan nodded his head. That could be the reason. The Celestial Arch did not dwell on this issue. The ancient Haven Palace had already been destroyed, and he wouldn't be able to live for much longer. Therefore, it didn't matter to him whether the Heavenly Lake's power was more or less. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. After death, I don't care what happens. The Celestial Arch shook his head and said to Fong Qingshan, "Earlier, I saw that you seemed to have just broken through, so I wanted to bring you here to cultivate and consolidate your foundation. I didn't expect you to receive a perfect baptism. It seems that we can start the infusion directly. We don't have to worry about your unstable foundation anymore." "Thank you, Celestial Ruler." Fong Qingshan expressed his gratitude once again. "There's no need for that. I'll be relying on you to protect the great 1,000 worlds in the future." The Heavenly Arch shook his head as he looked at Fong Qingshan. Every generation had its own geniuses, and each of them led the way for hundreds of years. "Yes." Fong Qingshan didn't say anything else and nodded. With a thought, a small whirlpool appeared in the sky above the Heavenly River. Spiritual energy gathered and turned into a water lotus. Fong Qingshan sat on it. Pretty good attainments of the 5 elements. Seeing how easy it was for Fong Qingshan, the Celestial Arch inwardly nodded his head. "Let's begin." Sizzle. Fong Qingshan's vision turned dark, and he saw the Celestial Arch pointing his finger. It was as if the Celestial Arch had disregarded the distance and gently tapped on his forehead. Buzz. A myriad luster instantly spread out from the center of Fang Qingshan's brows, forming into a lotus that made Fang Qingshan look extremely dignified. At the same time, a massive amount of information flowed from the celestial Thearch's finger into Fang Qingshan's mind. If it was someone else, that person's mind would have exploded. Even Mu Qian might not be able to endure it for a short period of time, as a savage expression appeared on his face. But Fang Qingshan was different. His sea of consciousness had long been expanded by the all-heaven chessboard. Although it was only one, it was far superior to Fang Han's sea of consciousness, which had cultivated the Great Origin technique. Later on, it carried the World Tree. As the World Tree grew, it would also return some inherited memories from time to time. Therefore, Fang Qingshan was already very familiar with this kind of information flow. His face was calm, as if a breeze was caressing his face. The Celestial Thearch couldn't help being surprised. But the better Fang Qingshan performed, the happier he was. After all, the one Qi into Sanqing was his representative divine ability. If he entrusted it to the wrong person, he wouldn't be able to smile in the underworld. As Fang Qingshan carried the information sent by the Celestial Thearch, he sorted it out. Soon, spiritual light gathered in his mind, and ancient words quietly took shape in the spiritual light. One Qi into Sanqing. The words of spiritual light condensed and dissipated, followed by the mysterious mantra, which contained a large amount of the celestial Thearch's cultivation experience and enlightenment. Fang Qingshan's heart sank into the mysterious heart sutra and comprehension in an instant. The yellow halo behind the Dharma form became increasingly bright, which was the manifestation of wisdom. And as Fang Qingshan comprehended the one Qi into Sanqing, some of the divine abilities that he had cultivated in the past, especially the pure yang sword art, the void escape sword art, the yin-yang eye, the heaven and earth furnace, and other divine abilities that belonged to Taoism, especially the Ren school at this moment, after sensing the one Qi into Sanqing's aura, they all shone brightly, like stars surrounding the moon. They revolved around the divine ability that he had yet to successfully cultivate. Waves of quiet and unrestrained aura gathered in the center like green smoke. This is indeed that person's special divine ability. Fang Qingshan was overjoyed. Although he had long suspected it, he still couldn't suppress the joy in his heart when it was proven. The last time this happened was when he obtained the World Tree. One Qi into Sanqing. This was the true, supreme, divine ability of Taoism. During the Great God Conferment War, the Grandmaster of Heaven had set up the immortal slaying sword array at the boundary steel. That was an existence that could not be broken by the four saints. I used this unparalleled divine ability for the first time, relying on the one Qi into Sanqing. Although I didn't break the Grandmaster of Heaven's array, I made him lose face and escaped unscathed. Powerful being Fang Qingshan suppressed the joy in his heart as he immersed himself in the comprehension of his mystic arts. The more he comprehended, the more Fang Qingshan could understand the power of this divine ability. Even his original core divine ability, the great 5 elements extermination needle, void escape, and the pure yang sword art could not be compared to it. Chapter 234. But it's a pity. Fang Qingshan sighed slightly. Fang Qingshan could already confirm that the Celestial Thearch's one-breath Sanqing technique was the special technique of the Lord of Tao and virtue of desolation. However, this divine ability of his was incomplete. Yes, the peerless great technique of the great ruler's world, one-breath Sanqing, was actually an incomplete technique. That was because the Celestial Thearch could only create 2 clones when using this technique. One-breath Sanqing, as the name suggested, required 3 clones. Fortunately, it was incomplete. Otherwise, it would not be a good thing for the current Fang Qingshan. Such a peerless technique had extremely stringent requirements for talent. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan was extremely outstanding to begin with. In addition, the Celestial Thearch imbued him with the Celestial Thearch's lifelong comprehension. At the same time, he also cultivated various Taoist and Ren techniques. It could be said that they were of the same lineage. In addition, this technique was not complete and was only a simplified version. Otherwise, even if Fang Qingshan obtained the cultivation method now, he would probably not be able to figure out such profoundness. He could only lament his inadequacy. However, no matter what, Fang Qingshan's trip was not in vain to be able to obtain this technique. Moreover, there was the spiritual power devoured by the world tree, the breakthrough in cultivation, the demon emperor, the celestial arch sword, and so on. Compared to the previous few worlds, the great ruler's gains were simply too great. Fang Qingshan was immersed in comprehending the profoundness of one-breath Sanqing and did not know that the celestial arch was already dumbfounded. The number of things that shocked the celestial arch today was probably more than what he had experienced in his entire life. First, the celestial arch sword was pulled out by someone who was not even an Earth Supreme, without using the immortal golden body. Then, the demon emperor, who even he could not suppress and almost failed at the last moment, was actually sealed by someone who was not even an Earth Supreme. Then, the spiritual power of the heavenly river seemed to have reached a dry period. After accumulating for tens of thousands of years, it was still not comparable to before. Finally, there was the one-breath Sanqing technique. He actually sensed an aura from Fang Qingshan that was of the same origin as the I Chi Sanqing divine art. Furthermore, this was one of the 36 peerless great mystic abilities. Even the prided geniuses of the heavens would not be able to truly cultivate it after just comprehending it. However, Fang Qingshan seemed to have signs of successfully cultivating it. Apart from the spiritual power of the heavenly river, all of this seemed to be related to the little fellow before him. What he did not know was that the weakening of the spiritual power of the heavenly river was also caused by Fang Qingshan. Otherwise, he would have been even more shocked. Could it be that this little fellow is the chosen one? The celestial arch speculated to himself. He then smiled bitterly and shook his head. He was already a man who was about to die. What was the point of thinking about these things? In the end, he was lucky to have met a monster like Fang Qingshan. What was there to be dissatisfied about? Could it be that this little guy is the successor of one of them? Putting aside other thoughts and thinking of the aura on Fang Qingshan that was similar to the I Chi Sanqing divine art, the celestial arch suddenly had a thought. Forget it, I'll ask this little guy later. For now, I should give him a helping hand and completely master the I Chi Sanqing divine art. Seeing that Fang Qingshan had already reached the final step, he was prepared to add fuel to the fire and completely help him condense the divine art. The I Chi Sanqing divine art. Sever oneself to see the truth and see one's true nature. The celestial arch said softly, but in Fang Qingshan's ears, it was like a thunderclap that opened the sky. Fang Qingshan easily understood the many mysterious points about the I Chi Sanqing divine art in his mind. Then, he let out a sound of enlightenment in his heart. The peerless divine art that was originally so obscure that it was impossible to figure out finally began to take shape in his mind. One after another, the talismans began to emit an endless amount of precious light. Green imperial edict, golden rays, scarlet chi. Every word was like a pearl, shining brightly. They collided with each other and fused with each other. At a certain moment, these runes completely linked back and forth, forming a formation and turning into a divine art talisman. Fang Qingshan's eyes snapped open as he glared at the bulldog. Slowly, he raised his hand and formed a seal that exuded an ancient aura. Buzz! As Fang Qingshan moved, there seemed to be endless mysteries in accordance with the laws of heaven and earth. In an instant, there was a mysterious sound wave that spread between heaven and earth. Listening to the tide in the sea of clouds and comprehending karma, only today do I know who I am. Sever my true blade, appear. As soon as his voice faded, there seemed to be a blade slowly taking shape above Fang Qingshan's head. It seemed illusory and real and fake. It looked like an illusion, but from a distance, it seemed to be able to sever even the soul. Sever the heavens, sever the earth, sever myself, sever, sever, sever. Fang Qingshan stood up, changed his hand seal, and uttered the word sever 3 times. Buzz! The illusory blade hanging above Fang Qingshan's head trembled slightly. The blade pointed at Fang Qingshan and actually cut through the void without hesitation, heading straight for the top of Fang Qingshan's head, slashing down heavily. If there were other bystanders, they would have exclaimed at this moment. How is this cultivating a divine art? He was simply losing his mind and was about to commit suicide. However, the Celestial Arch had cultivated the one Qi Sanqing before, so he naturally wouldn't be surprised. He just stood quietly at the side and watched. However, Fang Qingshan was as still as a mountain. The blade fell like a breeze, and his complexion, heartbeat, and blood didn't change at all. As for the blade, it was as if it didn't exist. When it landed on Fang Qingshan's head, it pierced through his head like it was air and came out of his body. Crack! There was a crisp sound, and a trace of blood appeared between Fang Qingshan's eyebrows, as if he had been split into 2. At this moment, Fang Qingshan's originally calm and peaceful face was exposed after the blade slashed through, and his expression was ferocious. Fortunately, when he cultivated the second primordial spirit, he had also split his divine soul. Although it was somewhat different from the current severing of his true self, he had a similar experience. Enduring the pain, Fang Qingshan roared again. Sever. Swish. The illusory blade instantly repeated its previous action. Once again, a trace of blood was taken from between Fang Qingshan's eyebrows. As the 2 blades fell, the illusory blade quietly collapsed in an instant, as if it had never appeared. And the 2 traces of blood that were cut out were constantly squirming, emitting strange fluctuations. After a while, they gradually turned into 2 similarly slender figures. Of the 2 figures, one was dressed in a green robe, and the other in a yellow robe. The one in the green robe was carefree and had a sage-like demeanor, while the one in the yellow robe was dignified and domineering. More importantly, their bodies exuded the same aura and powerful spiritual energy as Fang Qingshan. The 3 figures looked at each other for a while, then raised one hand and bowed to each other at the same time. They said in unison, "I am Fang Qingshan. Greetings, Taoist." Seeing this scene, the 3 of them laughed at the same time. The 3 of them had the same origin, and their relationship was even closer than the second primordial spirit. This was because some second primordial spirits might have problems, but they wouldn't. Chapter 235. Actually, you should wait until you become an Earth Sovereign before cultivating the one Qi turning Sanqing. That way, you would be able to obtain 2 Earth Sovereign clones. The Celestial Arch arrived before Fang Qingshan with a sway of his body. He sized up Fang Qingshan's 2 clones and said regretfully. However, ever since Fang Qingshan came to the ancient Haven Palace, he had overcome the wind and fire tribulations and condensed the worldly avatar, breaking through 2 levels in a row. Even though his foundation was still strong, it was precisely because of this that breaking through to the longevity giant realm was not something that could be done in a short period of time. Forcing it would not be worth it. This was also the reason why the Celestial Arch sword still contained tremendous energy that could be forcefully poured into Fang Qingshan's body to raise his cultivation level. But the Celestial Arch didn't do so. What about the Celestial Arch? He couldn't hold on for too long, which was why he said it was a pity. 1 peck, 1 drink, 1 gain, 1 loss. There's nothing to be pitiful about. Fang Qingshan smiled faintly in response to the Celestial Thearcha's words. You're quite open-minded. The Celestial Arch was stunned for a moment after hearing Fang Qingshan's words. He revealed a smile on his face and was very satisfied with Fang Qingshan's temperament. Although you've slashed out your clones, they're still a little superficial. Furthermore, they weren't obtained through bitter cultivation. You'll have to spend more effort to nourish them in the future. The Celestial Arch pointed out. Place the 2 clones at the bottom of the heavenly river. You can use the heavenly river to cultivate and also stabilize your foundation. Yes. Fang Qingshan nodded. The one Qi turning Sanqing is divided into 3 realms: the 3 separation realm, the 3 combination realm, and the 3 gods realm. You've only just started and barely reached the 3 separation realm. The celestial the arch continued. After the 3 separation, it's the 3 combination, which means you'll merge your clones back into your main body. As for the 3 gods, even I didn't achieve it back then. I only had a vague understanding of it. You'll have to comprehend it yourself in the future. If, at this point, the Celestial Emperor paused for a moment. He recalled the aura that came from Qingshan and shared the same origin as the 3 pure ones. By the way, I have a question. Senior, please ask away. As long as I know, I will definitely tell you everything I know. Fang Qingshan was stunned for a moment and then quickly said, The Celestial the Arch nodded before getting straight to the point. When I was cultivating the 3 pure ones, I sensed an aura similar to his from your body. Have you met that senior? That senior? Fang Qingshan knew that the Celestial the Arch was referring to the Taoist divine art that he cultivated, but what the hell was that senior? He couldn't help but furrow his brows. It's an elderly man with white hair and a ruddy complexion riding on a green cow. The Celestial the Arch explained upon seeing the confusion on Fang Qingshan's face. Senior, you've seen it before? Hearing this, coupled with the I Chi Sanqing, how could Fang Qingshan not know who the Sky Emperor was referring to? He immediately widened his eyes. You really do know him. Do you know where that senior is now? The Celestial the Arch was also overjoyed to see Fang Qingshan's reaction and quickly asked, I haven't seen him. I only received some inheritance from his disciples. Fang Qingshan shook his head. Oh, although he knew that the chances were slim, the Celestial the Arch was still a little disappointed to hear Fang Qingshan's words. However, this situation was not unexpected to him. That senior was very elusive. How could it be that easy to meet him? Now that he thought about it, even when he was at his peak, the strength of that senior was like looking at the moon in the water. If he hadn't obtained the boundless world's divine art back then, he most likely wouldn't have been able to attract the attention of that senior and wouldn't have been able to meet him. It was also because of his guidance that he was able to use the boundless world's divine art to evolve and cultivate this peerless divine art, one Qi Sanqing. Sai, what a pity. If you could meet that senior and receive a few pointers from him, you would be able to benefit from it for the rest of your life. Breaking through to the 3-deity realm would no longer be a dream. The Celestial the Arch sighed again. Perhaps it was because he was nearing the end of his lifespan, but he was sighing more and more frequently. He had initially sensed a familiar aura from Fang Qingshan and thought that he would be able to obtain more information about that senior. However, he didn't think that he would still be lacking in opportunities. Fang Qingshan nodded in agreement to the Celestial Thearch's words. The Celestial the Arch was able to cultivate one Qi Sanqing under his guidance. Even though it was incomplete, it was still one of the 36 peerless divine arts of the boundless world. At Hangu Pass, Ishi coincidentally came out of seclusion just in time for Laozi to become a Buddha. He obtained a scroll of the Book of Tao and established the renowned Mountain of Shu Mountain. However, this was something that could only be achieved through great opportunities and luck. If I can go to the realm of desolation in the future, I should be able to admire it. Fang Qingshan thought to himself, You are in charge of the Celestial the Arch Sword. This space shall be handed over to you from now on. Just as Fang Qingshan was wondering when he would be able to open the realm of desolation, the Celestial Thearch's voice sounded again. The Celestial the Arch Sword also contains a surge of power. When you break through to the Earth Supreme stage in the future, you'll be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort by using it. Thank you, Celestial the Arch, Fang Qingshan said. These are all worldly possessions. I won't bring them with me when I'm alive and won't take them with me when I die. If they can be of some help to others, then they will be put to good use. The Celestial the Arch smiled faintly. Although you will be in charge of the entire ancient sky in the future, I'm afraid you will still have to rely on your own abilities for the Sutra Pavilion. That guy is a stubborn man. The celestial arch couldn't help but smile when he thought of this. The Sutra Pavilion? Fang Qingshan couldn't help but smile when he heard this. He had yet to settle the score with the celestial arch for almost throwing him into a ditch. By the way, since we still have some time, do you have any other questions? Do you need my help? The celestial arch asked. By the way, Senior, how was the heavenly river formed? Is it a holy relic or a formation? Fang Qingshan suddenly thought of a question and asked. The heavenly river? The celestial arch looked at the surging river beneath his feet and said with a smile, in the beginning, this was just a massive spirit-gathering formation. I later found a rare treasure and refined the two together. Now, the heavenly river is actually a holy relic. The heavenly river is a holy relic? In other words, he can keep it? Fang Qingshan's eyes lit up. Keep it? You want to keep it? The celestial arch asked. Huh, that's what I plan to do. Hearing the celestial thearch's question, Fang Qingshan did not hide it and nodded. If he could bring it with him, it would be equivalent to having an arsenal with him, and he wouldn't have to worry about ammunition. Initially, Fang Qingshan's idea was to devour some spiritual energy through the world tree and store it as a foundation. But when the celestial arch mentioned that he would hand the ancient Haven Palace to him in the future, Fang Qingshan had the idea of taking care of the ancient Haven Palace in one fell swoop. Chapter 236, especially the Heavenly Lake and the Hidden Scripture Pavilion. There was no need to talk about the Milky Way. Although it was only water formed from spirit energy, it could not compare to the true water that was created by the heavens and earth. For example, the Yellow Springs sacred river in Fang Han's Yellow Springs painting was still very rare. Especially the baptism of the Heavenly Lake, it was the best item to nurture elite disciples. The Hidden Scripture Pavilion was the true foundation of the ancient Haven Palace, and not even the Heaven's Emergence sect had such a treasure. As long as any force could obtain the ancient Haven Palace, their future would be extraordinary as long as they weren't annihilated by other forces. Although he hadn't established his own faction yet, on the path of cultivation, he had seen many things before. Only by touching on similar things could he comprehend them. Since he wielded the Heavenly Emperor's sword, the ancient Haven Palace was akin to his backyard, which was still a little inconvenient. After all, he couldn't come to the world of sovereigns often. Furthermore, it was better for him to carry treasures with him. Since that's the case, I'll help you keep it. The Heavenly Emperor took a deep glance at Fang Qingshan before he waved his hand and formed a seal on the Heavenly Lake. Buzz! Thereafter, the Heavenly Lake trembled and surged. A brief moment later, the Heavenly Lake that stretched as far as the eye could see suddenly retracted, turning into a pool that fell into the Heavenly Emperor's hand. Take it and cherish it. The Heavenly Emperor casually tossed the spiritual pool to Fang Qingshan. There's no need for any words of gratitude. Just do your part if the Great Thousand World is in trouble in the future. Yes. Fang Qingshan solemnly nodded his head. After speaking so much to Fang Qingshan, the Heavenly Emperor's illusory silhouette became even more transparent, which made Fang Qingshan's expression dim. Evidently, the Heavenly Emperor couldn't hold on any longer. Although they had only known each other for a short period of time, and their relationship wasn't deep, he still owed the Heavenly Emperor a favor. Seeing that the Heavenly Emperor's final silhouette was about to disappear, he couldn't help feeling a trace of sadness. Even if one was an emperor, a general, or a minister that reigned supreme in the world, if one couldn't break through oneself, break through the demonic barrier, and sweep away the calamity, then one could only transform into a pile of dirt in the end. Looking at the Heavenly Emperor's silhouette turning more and more translucent before turning into sparkles of light and dissipating into the ancient Haven Palace, two thoughts rose in Fang Qingshan's mind. Cultivation and strength. Cultivation was the foundation, it was the Tao, it was eternal, and power was combat power, it was the Tao protector, it was the escort. With cultivation but no power, it was nothing more than a castle in the air. Once it was hit by the wind and rain, it would be in danger of collapsing. Possessing power without cultivation was nothing more than an illusion. Unable to see the direction, one would only get lost in the power. After feeling a little emotional, Fang Qingshan calmed himself down. She was already gone, and it was better to live in the present. As for the goal, it was enough to keep in mind. It could be said that Fang Qingshan's trip to the ancient Haven Palace had been successfully completed. His cultivation broke through from the Golden Elixir realm to the Dharma Idol realm, breaking through 2 levels in a row. If not for the fact that he wanted to consolidate his foundation, Fang Qingshan would have used the All-Heaven chessboard to suppress his cultivation. When he cultivated the 1 Qi turning Sanxing, his cultivation would have already broken through to the heaven-defying realm. Although his cultivation was still in the divine ability secret realm, it was no longer a problem for him to fight against someone in the first level of the longevity secret realm. As long as his opponent wasn't a genius, Fang Qingshan could definitely win. In terms of dermic power, the Xiantian and Hotian 5 elements Qi was not only condensed, but it wasn't far from the Qi in the longevity secret realm. Furthermore, his Qi recovery speed was very fast. Coupled with the World Tree and Heaven Lake, he didn't have to worry about his dermic power or the problem of a protracted battle. In terms of divine powers, the 5 elemental annihilation needles, pure yang sword art, void escape sword art, heaven and earth furnace, yin yang eye, great slicing technique, and so on are all divine powers above the great divine powers. In particular, the 3 pure ones he had just learned had more than doubled his combat power. In terms of magic treasures, he had the 5 Cloud Peach Flower Miasma for defense, the Serpent Slaying Sword, Pure Yang Sword, and Celestial Arch Sword for offense. All of them were Dao artifacts, especially the Celestial Arch Sword, which was a super sacred item. Before its power was exhausted, it would be a peerless Dao artifact at its peak. Therefore, apart from cultivation and experience, there wasn't much difference between Fang Qingshan and the longevity behemoth. Apart from cultivation, divine ability, and magic treasures, there were also other hidden gains. For example, the Devouring Sky Demon Monarch that was sealed was a top-notch resource for expiation, alchemy, and weapon refinement. Apart from that, there was also the luck. The luck gained from sealing the Demon Monarch and inheriting the legacy of the ancient Haven Palace wasn't any lesser than the trip to the 3 countries. Although it was just a one-time deal, Fang Qingshan was already very satisfied. The new world was about to open completely. Fang Qingshan felt that if he broke through the longevity secret realm or obtained some luck, he would be able to fully open the next world. It's time to leave. However, before leaving, Fang Qingshan still had to sweep through everything. Since he was the sole owner of the ancient Haven Palace now, all of these things belonged to him. He didn't know when he would be able to come to the great ruler's world again, so it would be a waste if he didn't plunder everything now. The ancient Haven Palace was massive. Apart from the heavenly Arch Cemetery, the 5 halls, the 9 mansions, the Dragon Ascension Gate, the Scripture Depository, and the Heavenly River, there were many other places. Although some places have been turned into ruins due to the ancient war, there were still good things left behind in the preserved places. When others came to the ancient Haven Palace, they would only plunder treasures that caught their eyes or those that were of great value. However, Fang Qingshan was different. 1 meter higher sky wasn't enough to describe his madness. He simply wanted to empty the entire ancient Haven Palace, leaving nothing behind. The Scripture Depository's item spirit, who was hiding in the dark, felt ashamed. He had never seen such a shameless person. Even the saint of the great desolation world would have to admit defeat when compared to him. All right, I know you've always been here. Come out and let's have a good chat. After sweeping the entire ancient Haven Palace clean, Fang Qingshan shouted towards the void, as though he had not had enough. The Scripture Depository had never been interested in Fang Qingshan. After witnessing his shameless behavior, it was even more ashamed to be associated with him. Therefore, it wasn't moved at all. You're not going to show yourself, right? Looks like I'll let you know who the true owner of the Heaven Palace is. Seeing that the Scripture Depository didn't respond, Fang Qingshan smiled and slashed at the void with the heavenly Arch Sword. Buzz! There was a fluctuation in the sky, and the space distorted. The scripture depository couldn't conceal itself anymore and was forced out. The Heavenly Dharch sword wasn't just the sword of the Heavenly Dharch. It wasn't just a supreme sacred artifact or a symbol of authority. It was also the remote control of the entire ancient Haven Palace. Whoever wielded the Heavenly Dharch sword would control the ancient Haven Palace. Chapter 237. Stinking Brat, are you done? The item spirit of the hidden scripture pavilion was going insane. Back then, when the Heavenly Emperor placed him in the ancient Haven Palace, not even the Heavenly Emperor forced him. Even the 5 Hall Masters had to be respectful to him. But today, he was forced out by Fong Qingshan time and time again, and he couldn't even make a move against him. In the beginning, the item spirit was only fearful of fate. But when he saw the fight between Fong Qingshan and the Demon Monarch, the fear in his heart grew deeper. Although it was a High Saint artifact, it wasn't a killing treasure. So its fighting power was much weaker than the pure Yang flying sword of the same level. Fong Qingshan was able to unleash the full might of the pure Yang flying sword, especially the chess piece from that world. Its might was even more unfathomable. If it were to smash itself, just the thought of it gave the artifact's spirit a toothache. In addition to the fact that Fong Qingshan wielded the Heavenly Emperor's sword, he had no means to defend himself. Didn't he see how he was forced out by Fong Qingshan waving the Heavenly Emperor's sword? He had mobilized the entire array of the ancient Haven Palace, and if he unleashed its power, he could even easily suppress an ordinary heavenly sovereign. Senior, please calm down. Seeing the item spirit suppressing the rage in his heart, Fong Qingshan wasn't bothered and asked, I have yet to ask for Senior's name. For treasures, there were pros and cons to having an item spirit and not having one. Any item with a spirit would know how to seek benefits and avoid harm, not to mention possessing complete intelligence. A treasure with an item spirit would be more autonomous, and it would be equivalent to having an additional helper. Without an item spirit, it would be safer, since the owner will be able to control the weapon. Who was superior and who was inferior was a matter of the benevolent and the wise. But for Fong Qingshan, it didn't matter if the item had an item spirit, it could only be used by him. Otherwise, what was the use of it? Fong Qingshan felt that the Heavenly Emperor was too lenient towards the artifact spirit of the hidden scripture pavilion. As the owner of the ancient Haven Palace, the artifact spirit dared to speak to him in such a manner. Even calling him unruly was a compliment. For Fong Qingshan, the hidden scripture pavilion was something that he had to take away. Since he had already plundered the entire ancient Haven Palace, there was no need to mention the strongest foundation. It would be fine if the artifact's spirit cooperated, but if it was stubborn, he might have no choice but to suppress it and kill it. The only thing he had to guard against was if it was driven into a corner and fought to the death. After all, the reason why he wanted the scripture depository was not because he wanted this high-grade Tao artifact, but because he wanted the sacred arts and cultivation methods inside. I am Shulingzi. Little brat, tell me what kind of divine ability or technique you need. As long as I have it, I will give it to you. Stop wasting time. The book spirit softened his tone and said to Fong Qingshan, I'm afraid that Senior won't be willing. Fong Qingshan said lightly. Unwilling? Of course not. Hearing Fong Qingshan's words, the book spirit replied with certainty. Even the immortal golden body had been taken away, so what else was there to be unwilling about? As long as he could send this plague away, the book spirit felt that it was worth it. After all, looking at the 1 meter higher sky, Fong Qingshan was clearly unwilling to return here. As long as he sent Fong Qingshan away, the book spirit would be free. Really? Fong Qingshan asked again with uncertainty. Yes, the book spirit answered resolutely. All right then. Senior, please hand over all the divine powers and cultivation method scrolls to me. Fong Qingshan smiled. All right. Hearing Fong Qingshan's request, the book spirit subconsciously spat out a word. But soon after, the smile that had just risen on his face froze. Little brat, you're making fun of me. After a long while, The book spirit's voice calmed down, and he stared at Fang Qingshan coldly. As the pinnacle force in the great thousand world in the past, the ancient Haven Palace had plenty of sacred arts and cultivation methods. Most importantly, he was the item spirit of the scripture pavilion, but he was called the book spirit. The main reason was that the more sacred arts and cultivation methods there were in the scripture pavilion, the greater his power would be. If he handed all the sacred arts and cultivation methods out, he would be crippled, and it was hard to say if the scripture pavilion could maintain its saint artifact grade. Fang Qingshan was cutting off his roots, so the book's spirit instantly turned cold. It's not a pastime, Fang Qingshan said faintly. You have two choices. First, Senior, hand over all the sacred arts and I will set you free. Second, Senior, leave with me. What if I don't choose either? The book's spirit sneered. In that case, I'll have to make you suffer too. Fang Qingshan waved the celestial Dharch sword indifferently. In an instant, the array of the entire ancient Haven Palace was mobilized. A vast pressure descended from the sky and only affected a single point of the scripture pavilion, confining it in mid-air. The book spirit never expected Fang Qingshan to act so recklessly. He didn't have much time to think and spat out a single word. Defend. As he opened his mouth, boundless righteousness surged. This was the power of the Confucian Tao and the power of the scrolls. The righteous qi swept over, the righteous qi of Yang. It immediately isolated the power of the array. Brat, back then, the heavenly Dharch promised me that he wouldn't force me to do anything that I'm unwilling to do. Are you going against it? Although Fang Qingshan didn't mobilize all the power of the array, the book spirit was still exhausted and could only bring out his old master. The heavenly Dharch is the heavenly Dharch, and I am me. The heavenly Dharch promised you, but I didn't, said Fang Qingshan. Moreover, although I've obtained the one chi-turning Sanqing and the heavenly Dharch sword, I'm not the successor of the heavenly Dharch. So it's useless to tell me all this. The book spirit couldn't help but choke when he heard that. Then he gritted his teeth and said, riches can't be corrupted, poverty can't be shaken, and power can't be subdued. Dream on if you wanted to submit. At most, we'll have a life-and-death struggle. Why aren't you willing to leave with me? Why aren't you willing to hand over the divine powers to me? This was what Fang Qingshan was most afraid of. Although the array was powerful, it couldn't confine the book's spirit instantly. However, he only needed an instant to destroy the divine powers. After a moment of silence, Fang Qingshan asked, is it all right if I don't like you? The book spirit snapped, books are power. If you take away all the divine powers, it's equivalent to crippling me. Do you think I'm willing? You don't like me? All right, it's a very powerful and subjective reason. At the same time, Fang Qingshan suddenly realized that the Sutra Depository could actually increase one's power through divine powers books. If that's the case, at the thought of this, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but smile. Seeing the strange look on Fang Qingshan's face, the book spirit felt a chill in his heart and shouted hurriedly, Brat, don't you have any wicked ideas? Otherwise, I can destroy all the divine powers with just a thought, and you'll be in vain. Chapter 238. Hearing the book spirit's stern voice, Fang Qingshan couldn't help chuckling. Forget it. Since Senior isn't willing, then I won't force you. Will you be so kind? Hearing that, the red light in the book spirit's heart lit up, and he looked at Fang Qingshan suspiciously. But this is the burial place of the heavenly Dharch. Fang Qingshan ignored the book spirit's words and continued, I won't be coming back after I leave. So, I've decided to completely activate the ancient Haven Palace's array and seal this place with the heavenly river as the source of spiritual energy to prevent anyone from disturbing the heavenly Thearka's rest. You can't do that. At first, the book spirit couldn't help heaving a sigh of relief when he heard that Fang Qingshan really didn't do anything to him. But after thinking about it, he couldn't help but exclaim, Fine, Fang Qingshan didn't take away the divine ability, nor did he do anything to him. However, he sealed the ancient Haven Palace completely, leaving him to fend for himself. The ancient Haven Palace had been sealed for tens of thousands of years, and it wasn't easy for Feng Qingshan to open it again. If he allowed Feng Qingshan to do this again, who knows if he would still be around the next time it opens? What vicious thoughts! Sigh. It's a pity that I have nowhere to put these divine abilities. Feng Qingshan still ignored the book spirit's words. With a flip of his hand, he took out the 3 heavenly tomes of heaven, earth, and man that he had obtained from Zhang Jiao and casually tossed them into the air. Then, he revealed his Dharma idol and displayed his various magical powers one by one. Apart from the one turning Qi Sanqing, the book spirit had never seen or heard of any of the divine abilities that Feng Qingshan had taken out. Furthermore, the one turning Qi Sanqing wasn't stored in the scripture depository back then. The book spirit had originally thought that he was knowledgeable. However, when he saw Feng Qingshan's supernatural powers, he instantly felt like he was looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. Rain after a long drought. An old cat smells salted fish. The book spirit stared at the divine ability that was displayed in the air hungrily. If it wasn't for the fact that he was imprisoned by the array and knew that he couldn't afford to provoke Feng Qingshan, he would have already charged over. Kid, you win. I'll go with you. After a long while, Feng Qingshan finished performing his supernatural power. He didn't say anything and just looked at the book spirit quietly. The book spirit smiled bitterly and finally surrendered. All the hustle and bustle in the world is for profit, and all the hustle and bustle in the world is for profit. From the commoners to the immortals, demons, and deities, no one could escape the temptation of profit. What's more, apart from death, there was still the threat of death. Under Feng Qingshan's carrot and stick tactics, with a stick in one hand and a carrot in the other, the Sutra Depository finally yielded. However, I hope that all the magical powers that you obtain in the future can be placed in the Sutra Depository. The book spirit made a final request. No problem. Feng Qingshan readily agreed. Sigh. The book spirit sighed, and the Sutra Depository suddenly shone brightly. Then, it shrank and turned into a mini Sutra Depository. Then, it fell into Feng Qingshan's hands. Successfully completed. At this moment, Feng Qingshan's trip to the Great Ruler could be considered successful. It's time to leave. Although there was still some time left, it was obviously not enough to continue. With a thought, Feng Qingshan communicated with the heavenly chessboard. There was a fluctuation in the space in front of him, and a door instantly opened. Feng Qingshan had already stepped in. With a flash of light, the space door disappeared along with him, as if it had never appeared, leaving behind only the ruins of the ancient Haven Palace. Outside the great Xian Empire, there was a distortion in the space, and Feng Qingshan stepped out. He looked around and saw that the mountains and rivers were in a mess. Obviously, it was caused by the mysterious expert who attacked him last time. Greater One Sect. Feng Qingshan raised his eyes and looked in the direction of the great Xian Empire. He snorted coldly, but did not do anything else. He turned around and flew towards the emergent sect. He had to leave. If he was found again, there would be no world for him to cross over to. It was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. On this trip to the Great Ruler, his cultivation had directly changed from gold core to heaven and earth manifestation, and he had also obtained the celestial emperor sword and one Qi turning Sanqing. His combat power was off the charts. Even if it was an ordinary first-layer longevity giant, Feng Qingshan could also defeat it. However, it was obvious that he was not strong enough to deal with the Greater One Sect. However, Feng Qingshan noted this down. It was not that the time had not come yet. As soon as he returned to the emergent sect, Feng Qingshan heard that Feng Han was fighting with someone on the Heaven Punishment platform. He immediately turned around. He happened to see Black Iron Immortal, Wu Li, and the 3 pro-disciples. Their myriad water chi had all been shattered by Feng Han. One by one, they were shaken off the Heaven Punishment platform by the strong flames. Sure enough, Feng Han did not encounter any mishaps in the Tai Yuan Immortal Mansion. Instead, he turned misfortune into fortune. Not only did Feng Han's cultivation base break through to the heavenly realm, but he also seemed to have cultivated his divine abilities for hundreds of years. He knew that Feng Han had stolen the gold core of exquisite paradise's fairy Huiyun. Because Feng Han had shown mercy, Black Iron Immortal returned the favor and directly gave the map of the 5-element spirit roots to Feng Han. Originally, things had come to an end at this point, but who would have thought that a sudden change would occur? Wait, Nan Wanluo, one of the 5 gold core pro-disciples of the emergent sect, suddenly spoke. I didn't expect you to have the whereabouts of the 5 elements spirit roots. That's great. How about this? Let's also have a fight. How about it? I don't think so. Before Feng Han could speak, Feng Qingxue said coldly, Feng Han has just broken through to the first heaven realm. Wanluo, you have long broken through to the gold core realm. Is it fun to bully the weak? How about this? Let's have a fight. Feng Han was a member of the Feng family. Feng Qingxue was still on the side, but Wanluo dared to openly suppress him. How could Feng Qingxue not be angry? Although Wanluo was a gold core disciple, Feng Qingxue was not afraid at all. Although she had not broken through, she was more than enough to deal with Wanluo. What? Someone who even dares to provoke eldest senior brother doesn't even dare to accept my challenge? It's really disappointing. Wanluo did not pay attention to Feng Qingxue's words at all and turned to Feng Han. Although Feng Qingxue was still in the consolidation realm, even Zhao Xuani, Song Wei, and the others from the Greater One sect could not defeat him in a one-on-one fight, let alone herself. Especially when she had the inextinguishable lightning, a Dao artifact at its peak. Most importantly, she had the younger brother of the #1 genius of the emergent sect behind her. Although Wanluo suppressed Feng Han, he did not dare to provoke Feng Qingxue. Seeing that Wanluo actually ignored her, Feng Qingxue immediately raised her eyebrows. Just as she was about to speak, Feng Han said, Wanluo, what do you want to bet? If you want the map of the 5-element spirit roots, you have to come up with something decent. Feng Han was now in a difficult position. As Wanluo said, he even dared to make a 10-year agreement with Hua Tiandu. If he did not dare to accept Wanluo's challenge, what would that be? Chapter 239. However, he was not afraid of Wanluo's challenge. During the days of cultivation in the Tai Yuan Celestial Mansion, he not only broke through the celestial being realm, but also perfectly inherited the 28 magical powers of Fairy Huiyun. It can be said that although he was only in the heavenly first realm, he was not much worse than a golden core realm. After all, Jianan was also in the golden core realm, but only had 15 magical powers. Wanluo was also in the golden core realm, but only had a dozen magical powers. He was in the heavenly first realm, but he had more than 20 magical powers. In addition, he also had the Dao weapon firmament in his hand, so he could try out the so-called golden core realm master. Good, you have courage. Hearing Feng Han's words, Wanluo was overjoyed. With a wave of his hand, there were 2 more things in his hand. One was platinum and shining fiercely. At first glance, the platinum light seemed to be able to cut people's eyes and bleed. As for the other one, it was a blob of water droplets. It was the size of an egg, and the sound of countless waves resounded faintly, as if a drop of water contained a large river. Tai Bai Golden Star Stone, 10,000 layers of soft water essence. These 2 things were the essence of the 5 elements, metal and water. Everyone present had seen the world. When Wanluo took it out, everyone knew what it was, and they were all taken aback. Although these 2 things were only materials, they were no worse than 2 treasured weapons. I know that you need the essence of the 5 elements to practice the 5 Emperor's great demon magical powers. Now you still have the metal and water essences to practice. How about it? Do you want to bet? Seeing the surprised look of Feng Han and others, Wanluo was very satisfied with the 2 things in his hand and asked, Feng Han, don't be reckless. Be careful not to fall into his trap. Seeing that Feng Han was very tempted, Feng Qingxue reminded him. Although she was not afraid of Wanluo, as one of the 5 golden core true disciples of the emergent sect, he must not be underestimated. Although Immortal World's Jiedon did not swallow a Jiedon into the abdomen, my life is not in defiance of the heaven, but it is also a small giant. In the ancient times, it is a legend. Anyone who can practice to this step is not a fuel-efficient lamp. The way of cultivation, talent, temperament, luck, immortal fate, and so on are indispensable. Especially luck. It really means that when the heavens and the earth are together, the heroes are not free. With great luck, even a fool could have a pie falling from the sky. For Wan Luo to be able to cultivate to this level, it was obvious that he was a person of great luck. He must not be underestimated. If they were to be schemed against and suppressed by him, their luck would definitely be damaged, which would affect their cultivation. After all, Fang Han and Hua Tiandu still had a 10-year agreement of life and death. Therefore, Fang Qingxue could not help but remind him. What? Scared? Someone like you actually dares to provoke eldest senior brother? You simply don't know what you're talking about. Seeing that Fang Han seemed to hesitate after listening to Fang Qingxue's words, Wan Luo immediately tried to provoke him. Agree to it. At that moment, a voice rang out from the heavens execution platform. The others did not say anything, but when Fang Qingxue and Fang Han heard this, their bodies trembled and their faces lit up with joy. Looking in the direction of the voice, as expected, they saw Fang Qingshan walking over step by step. Even though he did not exude any aura, everywhere he passed by, the disciples subconsciously parted to the sides, as though they were lining the streets to welcome him. Third brother, you're back. Greetings, third young master. Fang Qingxue and Fang Han hurriedly came over and greeted him. As soon as these words came out, there was an immediate uproar. This is Fang Qingshan, senior brother Fang. This is the senior brother Fang who killed the 2 golden core disciples of the Greater One sect. So the number 1 genius of our emergent sect is like this. As a golden core cultivator, he managed to force a tie with eldest senior brother. He is indeed impressive. Because Fang Qingshan had just entered the Divine Powers sect and had been traveling all year round, he did not even take care of the all-sky peak. Except for those close to him, almost no one had seen him before. However, although he was not in Jianghu, his legend still spread in Jianghu. Therefore, when they heard that the person who came was Fang Qingshan, the surrounding pro-disciples were instantly excited and scrambled to see what kind of person Fang Qingshan, who was comparable to Hua Tiandu, was. Big sister, Fang Han. Seeing the 2 walking over, Fang Qingshan also smiled and nodded. Since he's already put it this way, Fang Han, how about I agree to it on your behalf? It's all up to third young master. Fang Han was originally going to agree, so he naturally would not refute Fang Qingshan's words. Okay. Fang Qingshan nodded, then looked at Wan Luo and said, but it's just 2 precious materials. That's a bit too stingy. How about this? I know you've obtained Hua Tiandu's Panwu strength divine ability, and I'll use the great slicing art as the wager. Wow. Hearing Fang Qingshan's words, the crowd was once again in an uproar. First, they were surprised that Wan Luo actually had Hua Tiandu's Panwu strength supernatural power. Then there was the wager, whether it was the great cutting technique or the Panwu strength supernatural power. They were comparable to the great yin-yang technique of the emergent sect. The wager was too big. Everyone's mouth was dry and their heartbeats accelerated. How about it? After saying that, Fang Qingshan fixed his eyes on Wan Luo. Although Fang Qingshan did not release his aura towards Wan Luo, being stared at like this, Wan Luo felt as if his heart was being squeezed tightly, and an invisible pressure shrouded him. It was really karma. Previously, he had forced Fang Han to agree. Now, facing Fang Qingshan, Wan Luo was like an arrow on a bowstring that had to be fired. This was an existence comparable to Hua Tiandu. They hadn't even exchanged blows, but just by looking at him, Wan Luo felt endless pressure. Although such a person was asking him a question, it was obvious that he couldn't refute it. Okay. As he spat out this word, Wan Luo felt relaxed. Yes, in that case, you could go to the heaven punishment platform. Fang Qingshan heard this and nodded with satisfaction. Wan Luo and Fang Han heard this and looked at each other. There seemed to be sparks in the void, and the two flew up at the same time and landed on the heaven punishment platform. In this situation, all the Ascension sect's true disciples became excited. This was a shocking big bet, and it was the biggest bet since the establishment of the Emergent sect. The whereabouts of the 5 elements' spiritual roots, the grand white golden star stone, and the 10,000 layers soft water essence were not mentioned. The great cutting skill was the supreme demonic skill of the dark sect, one of the 3,000 great magic paths. The Panwu strength magic path, also known as the great sword skill, was on the same level as the great cutting skill. After practicing, the magic power of an ordinary cultivator would be 10 times stronger. No matter which of the 2 magic paths was obtained, it could make a person stand out from the countless experts. They would become the pride of the heavens, a peerless genius. Now, they were taken out as a bet. How could this not make everyone excited? Although they could not obtain it, it was worth the trip to see such a scene, especially when they saw Fang Qingshan, who was comparable to Hua Tiandu. They had a deep impression of him. After all, the great cutting skill was extraordinary. Chapter 240. Third brother. Do you think Fang Han can win? Fang Qingxue couldn't help but frown and ask after seeing Fang Han throw the map containing the secrets of the 5 elemental spirit roots. Fang Qingshan throw the cultivation method of the great incisor technique, and Wan Luo throw the grand white golden star stone, 10,000 layers of softest crystal, and the Panwu great strength god art onto the plaque of the platform of punishment. Of course, Fang Qingshan nodded affirmatively. Although Fang Han has a Dao weapon, he is only in the first heaven state. Wan Luo is a true disciple of the Golden Core realm. No one knows what trump cards he has. Hearing Fang Qingshan's decisive answer, Fang Qingxue was even more puzzled. Fang Han was indeed good, but Wan Luo was not easy to deal with. She did not know how Fang Qingshan knew that Fang Han would win. Fang Qingshan looked back at Fang Qingxue and chuckled. He would not tell Fang Qingxue that he had foresight and knew that Fang Han would win. But even without foresight, Fang Qingshan believed that Fang Han would win, so he analyzed for Fang Qingxue. In terms of magical powers, although Fang Han is only in the first heaven state, he obtained Fairy Huiyun's golden core and stole 1,000 years of cultivation. Wan Luo is not bad, but he only has 12 magical powers in his golden core. In terms of Dharma treasures, Fang Han has the underworld WIRM diagram and the life reaping all. These are all Dao treasures. As for the most powerful Wan Luo sect, it's just like the pagoda of confinement. It's just a supreme treasure. In terms of experience, although Fang Han is younger than Wan Luo, he has fought his way up and is not inferior to Wan Luo. In terms of magical power, although Wan Luo has the Panwu strength spell, it is obvious that he has not completely mastered it. Fang Han has a treasure that gives him an endless supply of magical power. Aside from the fact that Fang Han is weaker than Wan Luo in every other aspect. Do you think he can win? I didn't expect that a servant of the Fang family would have come this far. Hearing Fang Qingshan's analysis, Fang Qingxue was also very surprised. She could not help but sigh. I'm afraid that even I can't defeat him now. Heroes don't ask where they come from. Dragons and snakes are the most common in the wilderness. Fang Qingshan calmly said, although Fang Han is a servant of the Fang family, that is in the past. This person has great opportunities, great luck, and great perseverance. He will definitely become a pillar of the family in the future, so don't look at him with old eyes. Rope him in, and he will definitely become a powerful ally of the Fang family in the future. Fang Qingxue glanced at Fang Qingshan and said indifferently, so, from the beginning, you even gave him the painting? It's just the diagram of the underworld. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If it's not meant to be, don't force it. Fang Qingshan could say that it wasn't that he didn't want it in the beginning, but that he didn't dare to take it. Thus, he awkwardly pretended to be cool. While Fang Qingshan and Fang Qingxue were chatting, Fang Han and Wan Luo had already started fighting. Although Wan Luo had not completely mastered the Great Origin Source technique, his dermic power was still much higher than that of others. Compared to the freak Fong Han, his dermic power was twice as much. Fortunately, Fong Han had the Tree of World. Although his dermic power was not as large as Wan Luo's, he had an endless supply of it. The two of them fought with all their might. After all, the bet involved the Great Incision technique and the Panwu strength magical power. Although to Fong Qingshan, it was just a magical power if he lost, it was obvious that neither Fong Han nor Wan Luo was willing to count it. After all, in addition to the bet, it was also a battle of reputation and luck. Especially luck. Whoever lost would obviously have a certain amount of luck devoured by the other party. In the following period of time, whether it was cultivation, treasure hunting, or anything else, everything would definitely not go smoothly. Even the slightest mistake would result in half the result with twice the effort, and in the most serious case, it would even be difficult to drink cold water. Wan Luo used his strength to suppress his opponent. His dermic power rose steadily, and his magical power was activated. His body sounded like the Milky Way falling from the nine heavens. Fong Han directly took out his life, reaping all. The pressure of a Dao artifact rose slowly, fighting against Wan Luo's momentum. Kill! Kill! The two of them did not waste any time. With a roar, they attacked each other. Fong Han's attack was like that of an ancient demon. The Blood Sea demon descended on the world. The all came and went without a trace. Just one look at it was enough to make people shiver. What about Wan Luo? He did not fight head-on with the life-reaping all. After all, it was a killing Dao artifact. However, he was like a ghost, avoiding the life-reaping all. He muttered something and displayed the Panwu strength magical power. However, Fong Han was like an assassin, appearing and disappearing unpredictably, his cold light shining through the ages. Wan Luo, on the other hand, was like a saint of martial arts. He could catch the stars and the moon, and his power could cover the sky. For a moment, the space was shattered, and the sound shook the sky. If it were not for the Heaven's punishment platform, the pro-disciples around would have been caught in the crossfire. Huh, is this the clear heaven fire? Seeing Fong Han and Wan Luo display their divine abilities, everyone's hearts trembled and their eyes were dazzled. Suddenly, Fong Qingxue saw a flame in Wan Luo's hand and couldn't help but be a little surprised. That's right, this is the clear heaven fire. At this time, a voice came from beside the two of them, confirming it. Fong Qingxue and Fong Qingshan turned around, and they noticed that Jia Nan had suddenly approached them. Greetings, senior sister Jia Nan. Fong Qingshan and Fong Qingxue bowed. Junior sister Fong, junior brother Fong, you don't have to be so polite. Seeing the two of them bowing, Jia Nan quickly stepped aside. Fong Qingxue did not dare to bow. After all, her cultivation was higher than Fong Qingshan's, so she really did not dare to accept Fong Qingshan's bow. By the way, what's the deal with the clear heaven fire? Fong Qingshan asked. I don't know much about it. Let senior sister Jia Nan explain. Fong Qingxue said. The clear heaven fire is a supreme magical power recorded in the White Sun soaring scripture. Its power is not inferior to the grand solar fire. Jia Nan nodded and explained. Normally, when ordinary disciples advance into the elite disciple realm, they're able to pass down a minor divine ability, whereas only those with superb natural talent at the heaven realm or those that have rendered great merit would be taught the 8 great divine abilities. Once one attains the golden core realm, one can choose to cultivate the supreme divine abilities recorded in the White Sun soaring scripture. However, it isn't easy to obtain it. I never expected that Wan Luo would have actually learned the clear heaven fire. So there's something like that. Fong Qingshan couldn't help but nod when he heard this. He was wondering why the dignified Ascension sect only possessed 8 great divine abilities besides the renowned grand yin-yang arts. So it turned out that if one wanted to cultivate a supreme divine ability, then one had to advance into the golden core realm first. In this way, I can choose a divine ability to cultivate as well? Asked Fong Qingshan. Of course. With junior brother's cultivation and natural talent, cultivating a supreme divine ability is definitely extremely easy. Jianan spoke with certainty. What about the void, yin-yang Dao? Can I choose to cultivate it as well? Asked Fang Qingshan. In his opinion, the Ascension sect that he attached the most importance to was naturally the void yin-yang Dao that was derived from the grand yin-yang arts. Chapter 241. As for the other supreme magical powers, such as the Haotian real fire that Wan Luo had just displayed, it was naturally good if he could obtain it. Even if he did not cultivate it, he could keep it in the Sutra's Pavilion to strengthen his foundation, improve the quality of the Sutra's Pavilion, and even comprehend other things by analogy. However, to him, obtaining these divine abilities was his fortune, and losing them was his fate. It wasn't too important whether he could obtain them or not. It was best if he could obtain them, but it did not matter if he could not obtain them. Only the vacuum yin-yang Dao, which was the only supreme magical power evolved from the great yin-yang technique of the 3,000 great Dao in Emergent Sect, pointed directly to the yin and yang Dao of heaven and earth. The yin and yang Dao was the most basic great Dao of heaven and earth, just like the 5 elements great Dao, but it encompassed all things in the world and was ranked in the top 10 of the 3,000 great Dao. Male and female, black and white, day and night, water and fire, heaven and earth, hot and cold, sun and moon, all were yin and yang. Yin and yang could also evolve into the 5 elements and 8 trigrams, which was beneficial to Fang Qingshan's cultivation of the yin and yang eyes, the 5 elements extermination needle, the 5 elements sacred thunder, and even the heaven and earth furnace. Moreover, the great old master in the untainted land also used the innate yin-yang to prove his Tao and controlled the yin-yang treasure, the Taiji diagram. He cultivated the I-Chi turning 3 pure ones, the pure yang sword technique, and so many magical powers taught by the Taoists. If he comprehended the great Tao of yin and yang, he might even be valued by the great old master when he went to the untainted land. If he could become a disciple of the great master, he would hit the jackpot. The great master had the inheritance of Pan Gu and Hong Jun. He controlled the heaven and earth exquisite pagoda and Tai Chi diagram. He was the only sage, after Hong Jun, who completely cut the 3 corpses and achieved the Tao. If he could become a disciple of the great master, whether it was learning something or being a great backer, it would be a good thing. Putting aside what Fang Qingshan was thinking, Jianan hesitated for a moment when he heard Fang Qingshan's question. Then, he shook his head and said, "The vacuum yin-yang Dao is the true foundation of Emergent Sect. I don't know the specific conditions to learn it, but at least one thing is certain. Those who have just entered the Gold Core realm will not be granted. The Golden Elixir will not be awarded." Upon hearing Jianan's words, Fang Qingshan knew that she was tactfully reminding him that even though he'd managed to force a tie with Hua Tiandu at the Golden Core realm, his cultivation was still slightly low in the end, and he had to continue working hard if he wanted to learn the vacuum yin-yang Dao. Then what level of cultivation will be granted? Secret realm of longevity? Fang Qingshan continued to ask. This, in the end, Jianan was only a Golden Core elite disciple. Even though he could be considered to be pretty good amongst the elite disciples, he didn't know much about the true void yin-yang Dao, which involved the foundation of the sect. I don't need the longevity secret grounds. Right at this moment, an iron-blooded and murderous voice rang out in everyone's ears. Everyone turned around to look, only to discover that Elder Tianxing had unknowingly appeared beside them. The direct disciples of the sect were not allowed to kill each other. If there was a conflict that could not be resolved, they could only fight on the Heaven's Punishment platform. Otherwise, if the sect found out, no matter who you were, no matter how powerful your cultivation was, you would be severely punished. Therefore, even though Hua Tiandu and Wan Luo suppressed Fang Han and even made use of him to kill him, they would never dare to kill him in public. The Heaven's Punishment platform was Elder Tianxing's territory. Originally, the battle between Fang Han and Xiantai Zhenren had already attracted his attention. After all, Fang Han had just been rescued from the Tai Yuan immortal abode by the sect leader. His cultivation had actually caught up and reached the celestial being realm. Even his combat power could defeat an older consolidation realm cultivator like Xiantai Jinren. The appearance of such a genius was a sign of the prosperity of the sect. After that, he didn't want to interfere with Wan Luo's suppression. After all, as long as it didn't involve life and death, as long as it was fair and above board, he never minded. However, he didn't expect that it would actually draw out Fang Qingshan. If Fang Han was still a growing genius, then Fang Qingshan was already the future hope of the emergent sect. Not only did he defeat Hua Tiandu with his Golden Core realm cultivation, but after leaving the sect for a few years, Elder Tianxing found that his cultivation had actually broken through to the Golden Core realm. This kind of growth in cultivation was really rare, especially since he basically didn't rely on the resources of the sect. What was the meaning of the existence of the sect? It was to help you when you were weak, to support you to grow, and when you were strong, then to repay the sect. It was better to give first than to take first. It was a pity that Fang Qingshan's growth was too fast. Except for the last time when the sect blocked the Greater One sect's accountability for him, he had hardly used the slightest of the sect's resources. Although this seemed to save resources for the sect and could be used to cultivate more disciples, the pillar of the sect was quality, not quantity. Fang Qingshan used less resources, which meant that he owed the sect less and did not have deep feelings for the sect. How could this work? Therefore, when he heard that Fang Qingshan was interested in the vacuum yin-yang Dao, Elder Tianxing spoke up. "Greetings, Elder Tianxing." Seeing the person, Fang Qingshan and the other two stood up at the same time and saluted. Forget it. No need to be so polite. Looking at the three people before him, Elder Tianxing smiled with satisfaction. Fang Qingshan was already the #1 genius of the Ascension sect, the #1 elite disciple. Fang Qingxue had obtained the inextinguishable lightning, the reincarnation of the ancient lightning mother, and her future was limitless. Although Jianan was slightly inferior, he was still one of the 5 great Golden Core elite disciples of the Ascension sect. How could Tianxing not feel gratified that such an outstanding person had appeared in the sect? As an elder who had always wanted to expand the sect, how could he not feel gratified? He waved his hand and smiled amiably at Fang Qingshan. "Qingshan, I haven't congratulated you for breaking through again." Although Elder Tianxing couldn't see through Fang Qingshan's cultivation, he sensed the aura of passing the tribulation of wind and fire. "What? You broke through again?" Jianan and Fang Qingxue instantly stared at Fang Qingshan with their eyes wide open when they heard this. "I was just lucky," Fang Qingshan said indifferently. Jianan and Fang Qingxue couldn't help but choke when they saw how carefree Fang Qingshan was. Lucky? Why didn't I get lucky once? However, it wasn't good for them to continue asking. If they continued asking, they might touch on his privacy. If you want to learn the void yin-yang Dao, you don't need to reach immortality. Seeing this, Elder Tianxing quickly changed the topic. However, you also need to reach the level of defying the heavens and changing your fate. This is the first step. Hearing Elder Tianxing's words, Fang Qingshan and the other two listened attentively. The second step is talent. You must prove yourself and surpass all the other elite disciples in order to obtain the fundamental Tao of the Ascension sect. Qingshan has basically achieved this point. Tianxing said, "The third step is contribution. Only those who have made great contributions to the sect will be awarded." So, Qingshan, if you want to learn the void yin-yang Dao, cultivation is not a problem. You just need to contribute more to the sect. "Thank you for your guidance, Elder." Fang Qingshan nodded and asked, "Has Hua Tiandu been granted the right to learn the Tao of yin-yang vacuum?" Chapter 242. Hua Tiandu? Not yet. Hearing Fang Qingshan's question, Elder Tianxing shook his head. Tiandu's cultivation and talent are enough. The only thing he lacks is contribution points, so he reorganized the sect and united with the Greater One sect to accumulate contribution points to exchange for the vacuum yin-yang Dao. Unfortunately, Elder Tianxing shook his head and sighed. If nothing unexpected happened, Hua Tiandu was the future star of the emergent sect. After Feng Baiyu abdicated, the emergent sect would be handed over to him. After all, at that time, not to mention Feng Qingshan, Feng Han, and even Feng Qingxue had not appeared yet. In the sect, apart from Hua Tiandu, only Jianan and the other three were on par, but compared to Hua Tiandu, the four of them were far behind. Therefore, the sect had high hopes for Hua Tiandu, hoping that he would grow up quickly, take charge of his sect, and lead the emergent sect to a more glorious future. Unfortunately, things were gradually changing. Although they were all part of the 10 major sects of the Immortal Path and helped each other, how could they allow others to sleep soundly beside them? The Greater One sect had dominated the black-yellow great world for a long time. How could they watch the rise of the emergent sect and remain indifferent? If they suppressed them directly, not only would they have no justification, but they would also ruin their reputation and rules. Therefore, it was equivalent to using barbarians to control barbarians, cultivating Hua Tiandu, and getting close to the Greater One sect. The reason why Hua Tiandu could rise so quickly and rank in the top 3 on the longevity list was not only because of his own opportunities, but also the support of the emergent sect and the assistance of the Greater One sect. The higher-ups of the emergent sect were naturally aware of the Greater One sect's overt plot. But the reason why an overt plot was an overt plot was that you knew they were plotting against you, but you could only passively accept it. Therefore, the higher-ups of the emergent sect could only place their hopes on Hua Tiandu, hoping that he would eat the sugar coating and return the favor. But obviously, Hua Tiandu did not do a good job in this matter. He ate the sugar coating, but did not return the favor. On the contrary, he cultivated his own team and suppressed the dissidents. Hua Tiandu was growing stronger day by day. Although there were no signs of raising a tiger that could not be dealt with, the emergent sect itself did not grow much stronger. Feng Baiyu, Elder Tianxing, and the others could not sit still any longer. Therefore, they began to nurture Feng Qingxue, hoping that she would grow faster and compete with Hua Tiandu. However, he had never expected that. Before Feng Qingxue had fully matured, Feng Qingshan had soared into the sky like a koan transforming into a rock, and was now on equal footing with Hua Tiandu. To Feng Baiyu, Tianxing, Elder Technique imparting, and the others, this was naturally a joyous matter. The only troublesome thing was that he needed to nurture Feng Qingshan's deep friendship with the sect. The matter you reported last time has been verified by the sect. It is a great contribution, but the sect did not give you any reward. First, this matter should not be publicized, and, at the same time, it is also to accumulate for you. If you have a few more such great contributions, it will not be long before you can exchange for the vacuum, Yin-Yang Dao. After sighing, Elder Tianxing calmed his mood and explained to Feng Qingshan the matter of the God Clan that he reported after leaving the emergent sect last time, encouraging him to continue to contribute to the sect. While speaking, Wan Luo suddenly waved his palm, and a large amount of Gang Qi condensed into a palm. As soon as this palm was displayed, it made people feel a burst of excitement. Although Feng Qingshan and the others were not on the Heaven's Punishment platform, they were also affected. For a moment, except for Elder Tianxing, everyone felt a mixture of ups and downs. Fortunately, they were only affected by the aftermath, and they were not ordinary people. After a slight shock, they stabilized their minds. But even so, Wan Luo's magical power could be said to be powerful. Under a closer look, there were runes entwined on it. There were 7 fingers, and on each finger, the runes condensed into a word: joy, anger, sorrow, joy, sadness, bitterness, and worry. This was a magical power that pointed directly to the 7 emotions. As long as one was human, they would have 7 emotions and 6 desires. The deeper the 7 emotions, the greater the impact. Fortunately, Feng Han obtained a magical power from Fairy Hui Yun's gold core, called the Blessing Technique. Although this magical power had no offensive or defensive power, it could suppress one's mind and prevent them from being disturbed by evil spirits. For a time, there was a burst of clear, spring water, and the refreshing sound of scripture sounded, but it instantly broke the various negative emotions of the seven emotions' big handprint. Fong Han even cast a snake sparrow wandering divine chi at the critical moment, avoiding the attack of the big handprint, and used the fatal all to completely break Wan Luo's magical power. And he wanted to completely defeat Wan Luo in one go. Seeing this, Elder Tian Xing secretly nodded and said to Fong Qingshan with a smile, "Qingshan, your Fong family has produced another top genius. You have a great opportunity and great luck. Congratulations." Wasn't it true? To be able to obtain the Flood Dragon Underworld painting, wasn't it a great opportunity? To be trapped in the Tai Yuan celestial abode and gain a blessing in disguise, wasn't it a great luck? Fong Han is a member of the Fong family, and also a disciple of the emergent sect. Congratulations. Fong Qingshan said with a smile. Elder Tian Xing was very satisfied with Fong Qingshan's answer. At the same time, he felt that the rise of the Fong family was unstoppable. In the future, they would definitely become a pivotal existence in the emergent sect. There was no need to talk about Fong Qingshan. Even though his cultivation base had yet to break through to the longevity realm, with his cultivation base, he was still able to sense a hint of danger from Fong Qingshan. This was incredible. There was also Fong Qingxue, the reincarnation of the Lightning Mother, who had inherited the legacy of the ancient Thunder Emperor. As long as she did not die halfway, she was destined to grow into a great figure. The same was true for Fong Han. He had inherited the Yellow Spring Emperor's legacy. If he opened the treasure in the future, he might become a giant comparable to or even surpass the Yellow Spring Emperor. Fortunately, they were all in the emergent sect. If they were in the Greater One sect, the emergent sect would be anxious. Elder Tian Xing could not help but feel a little lucky. The people below the stage had a myriad of thoughts, but the scene on the stage was colorful. Wan Luo was worthy of being one of the 5 golden core true disciples of the emergent sect. In the face of the attack of the Fatal All, he first threw out a defensive treasure called the Rosy Cloud 5-color tent, and then directly took out his golden core. Together with his famous supreme treasure, the Luoshan Gate, he fought Fong Han head-on. Unfortunately, he was trapped by Fong Han's Linglong Heaven. Then, he used wood to make fire, and with the help of the 5 great Demon Emperor's magical powers, the Great Sunfire, and so on, he suddenly fell into an absolute disadvantage. Wan Luo was unwilling to fail. He wanted to use the demonic life reduction pill to fight back, but he did not know that Fong Han was already on guard against him and directly knocked the pill away, causing him to fall short of success. Well, Fong Han, stop now that you've won. Seeing that cracks had appeared on the Wan Luo golden core, Fong Qingshan immediately said, Wan Luo was a golden core true disciple of the emergent sect. Elder Tian Xing would never stand by and watch him go wrong. Therefore, after Fong Han slightly punished him, Fong Qingshan stopped him in time. Chapter 243. Yes, Fong Han was actually a very sensible person. He also knew that he could not destroy Wan Luo, even if it damaged his foundation. Therefore, when he heard Fong Qingshan's voice, he immediately stopped and kicked Wan Luo off the platform. Alas, I didn't expect senior brother Wan Luo to lose. It's really unexpected. Yes, Fong Han is only in the celestial being realm, but he actually defeated senior brother Wan Luo in the Golden Core realm. I'm afraid another senior brother, Fong Qingshan, will rise. The Fong clan already has senior brother Fong Qingshan and senior sister Fong Qingxue, and now senior brother Fong Han. I'm afraid the Fong clan will dominate in the future. Wan Luo's defeat immediately caused a lot of discussion among the onlookers. Thank you for the reward, senior brother Wan Luo. Although he could not deal a physical blow to Wan Luo, he could still deal a mental blow. After receiving the spoils from the plaque on the platform, Fong Han could not help but smile and sincerely express his gratitude to Wan Luo. Wan Luo had lost to Fong Han and suffered a double loss. After hearing the discussions of the other true disciples, he was already depressed. When he heard this, he could not take it anymore. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Everyone present, except for Ling Xiao and Wan Luo, did not think that there was anything wrong with Fang Han's behavior. This was the so-called winner takes all. Fang Han, don't be too proud. Junior brother Wan Luo was just careless. Ling Xiao helped Wan Luo up and looked at Fang Han, who was intoxicated with success. He could not help but snort. You'd better think about the 10-year agreement with eldest senior brother. This time, eldest senior brother has gone to the Greater One sect to use their celestial artifact to refine the secret realm of longevity. Ling Xiao, Wan Luo, Hua Tiandu, and the others formed their own faction. They were bound together for good or bad. Wan Luo's defeat today was a heavy blow to them. In order to reverse the situation, Ling Xiao immediately brought up Hua Tiandu. On the one hand, he could not stand Fang Han's complacency, and, on the other hand, he wanted to show the others that a temporary failure was nothing. I don't need senior brother Ling Xiao to worry about me. Fang Han sneered. If one could become an immortal overlord with an immortal artifact, the supreme solitary sect would have unified the Xian Huang long ago. After a pause, Fang Han continued, Moreover, the Greater One sect has an immortal weapon. Don't tell me our emergence sect doesn't have one? Hua Tiandu is the #1 true disciple of our emergence sect, but he has to give up what is close at hand and seek what is far away. Those who don't know would think that he is a disciple of the Greater One sect. Ling Xiao had wanted to use Hua Tiandu to pressure Fang Han, but he didn't expect that Fang Han would put the blame on him instead. Ling Xiao wanted to refute, but Fang Han did not give him a chance. After he finished speaking, he brought the spoils of war to Fang Qingshan and the others. He handed over the Panwu strength god art and the great slicing technique and smiled at Fang Qingshan. Fang Han did not disappoint you. All right. Fang Qingshan took the Panwu great strength sacred art and nodded in satisfaction. Since you won this, you should make a copy of it later and use it to cultivate. Thank you, third young master. Fang Han's eyes lit up when he heard this. Now that his Dharma power had reached its limit, if there were no accidents, he could only break through to the next realm. Otherwise, if he continued to build his foundation, it would not be a solid foundation, but a self-explosion. The Panwu strength sacred art could allow him to break through the shackles without breaking through to the next realm and make his foundation stronger. Therefore, Fang Han did not hesitate to accept Fang Qingshan's gift. All right, go to my all-sky peak. I have something to tell you. Yes. Fang Qingshan, Fang Qingxue, Fang Han, and the others said a few words to Jianan, then got up and left. As for Elder Tianxing, he left after Fang Han defeated Wan Luo. All Sky Peak. This time, he found that there were too many changes compared to the last time he came back. First, Fang Ling and Fang Qin, the two maids, had broken through to the divine secret realm. Then, the whole All Sky Peak was completely new. From a distance, in terms of momentum, only Hua Tiandu's true disciple peak could compete with it. This is the sect's compensation. Seeing the surprise in Fang Qingshan's eyes, Fang Qingxue explained. When Fang Han heard this, he could not help but show a look of envy. Fang Qingshan understood even more. As previously said, Fang Qingshan did not make a sound for 3 years, but he shocked the world with a single brilliant feat. He did not fly for 3 years, but he soared to the sky. The speed of his rise was too fast, so fast that the help the sect gave him was negligible. As the saying goes, give and take. The sect did not give him much help, so how could he hope to rise to the top in the future? It was just that Fang Qingshan was not in the sect all year round, and his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, so the sect could only take advantage of him and give some resources to those close to him. When they came to the main hall, the three sat down. Fang Qingshan first made 2 copies of the Panwu strength sacred art and handed them to Fang Han and Fang Qingxue. Take it and practice it. This Panwu strength sacred art evolved from the Great Source technique and is one of the 3,000 Hongjun Tiandao sacred arts. It can improve one's source and has endless uses. Feng Han and Feng Qingxue took it naturally. The three of them were connected by fate and came from the same lineage. It could be said that they were bound together for good or bad. Feng Han had already thanked them. Feng Qingxue was Feng Qingshan's elder sister. She had even passed on the little destiny technique to him, so there was no need for formalities. By the way, Feng Han, I called you here to ask for a few things from you. Feng Qingshan did not hesitate and went straight to the point. Third young master, please tell me. As long as Feng Han has it, I will give it to you. Feng Qingshan's words were clear, and Feng Han's answer was straightforward. Well, first, I need some Yellow Springs water. Whether it was the cultivation of the sequential 5 elements, essential qi, or the evolution of the sacred art, Feng Qingshan needed to smelt the top 5 elements, spiritual items. When he was the great ruler, he had already integrated the fire and wood spiritual items. This time, he wanted to add the water element. No problem. Although Feng Han's answer was straightforward, he was also worried that Feng Qingshan wanted something that he could not bear to give up. However, there was no problem with the Yellow Springs water. For others, the Yellow Springs water was the best holy water in the world, and it was something that was priceless. For Feng Han, he could have as much of the Yellow Springs River as he wanted. He was very generous. With a wave of his hand, he extracted a tributary from the Yellow Springs diagram and handed it to Feng Qingshan. Third young master, if it's not enough, you can find me again. Okay. Feng Qingshan nodded in satisfaction. It was worth it to give him the great source technique. You have finished cultivating the 5 emperors' great demon sacred art. Pass it to me. After obtaining the Yellow Springs water, Feng Qingshan's next goal was the great 5 elements technique. Third brother. However, as soon as he said this, Feng Qingxue frowned and interrupted before Feng Han could say anything. The 5 emperors' great demon sacred art was Feng Han's specialty. She was puzzled that Feng Qingshan wanted to take it away. Didn't he say he wanted to rope him in? Chapter 244. Feng Han, third brother, didn't want to take your... Feng Qingxue first interrupted Feng Qingshan's words, then looked at Feng Han and said, He just... Feng Qingxue just said it for a long time, but still couldn't find an excuse. Feng Qingshan didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw this, but he also knew that she had good intentions. Eldest miss, I know. Feng Han nodded with a smile. This is what I promised third young master. You promised me back then? Feng Qingxue couldn't help but frown deeper. What the hell is going on? It's like this. Today, in fact, a lot of things can be said, so Feng Qingshan told her about their agreement when he first came to a mortal world and before Feng Han rose. So that's how it is. When Feng Qingxue heard this, she finally knew why Feng Qingshan valued Feng Han back then. He knew that Feng Han had the Flood Dragon Underworld painting, but he didn't care. In addition to other reasons, there was a deal between them. Since one was willing to fight and the other was willing to suffer, Feng Qingxue didn't say anything. Feng Han also happily passed on the cultivation method of the Great 5 Elements technique to Feng Qingshan. Although it was only a cursory look through the Great 5 Elements technique passed on by Feng Han, all the 5 elements' magical powers in Feng Qingshan's body moved, and a trace of mysterious changes arose. However, this was obviously not the best time to cultivate in seclusion, and he still had things to ask for, so he forcibly suppressed the restlessness in his heart. In addition to the Great 5 Elements technique, you can also pass on the Linglong Great Heaven from Fairy Hui Yun to me as one of the 3,000 Great Path magical powers. Feng Qingshan said to Feng Han, The Linglong Great Heaven was a supreme magical power created by Venerable Linglong of the exquisite Blessed Land, one of the 10 great immortal sects. Speaking of this Venerable Linglong, he had to say a few more words. This person was definitely the main character of an era and had a cheat. She was originally a disciple of Great Solitary Sect, but due to some reasons, she left Great Solitary Sect and created Exquisite Paradise, which was on par with Great Solitary Sect. Not to mention anything else, just the fact that she had rebelled against the Greater One Sect, Not only was she not chased to death by the Greater One sect, but the sect she created was actually able to stand up to the Greater One sect. Just this point alone was enough to show that this person was extraordinary. He had inherited the legacy of the primordial Taoist and even created the Linglong Grand, overarching heaven. 99 chessboards of heaven and earth, turning attacks into formlessness, establishing an invincible position. The metal attribute was immortal, everlasting, undying. Although the sprightly Grand Emperor in heaven wasn't the 3,000 Hongjun Tiandao's essence divine ability, it was still very ambitious. Of course, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that Fang Qingshan possessed the all-heaven chessboard. In Fang Qingshan's divine ability, the heaven and earth furnace was modeled after the top primordial spiritual treasure Lao Juan's 8 trigrams furnace, and the yin-yang I was similar to Qi Jingzi's yin-yang mirror. However, Venerable Linglong's Linglong Grand, overarching heaven made Fang Qingshan see the compatibility between it and the all-heaven chessboard. The all-heaven chessboard was originally his fundamental magic treasure, but it couldn't be moved easily. Firstly, it was too precious and eye-catching. An innocent man would get into trouble because of his treasures. Secondly, it carried and suppressed Fang Qingshan's luck. If he could get his hands on the sprightly Grand overarching heaven, he would definitely be able to use it as another divine ability that he could use as a pressure box. Linglong Grand overarching heaven. Fang Han was a little surprised by Fang Qingshan's request, but he didn't ask much. Just like the previous Great Five Elements technique, he condensed the cultivation method into a book and gave it to Fang Qingshan. After obtaining the Great Five Elements technique, the Linglong Grand overarching heaven, and the yellow spring water, Fang Han and Fang Qingxue said goodbye to Fang Qingshan after chatting for a while. Like Fang Qingshan, they had just obtained the Panwu's strength divine ability and were eager to go back and cultivate it immediately. Moreover, Fang Han wanted to strike while the iron was hot. He wanted to build up his force while he defeated Wan Luo. When Fang Qingxue saw that Fang Qingshan had caught up and his strength was still continuously breaking through, she was also stimulated. Moreover, her cultivation had also reached the great circle of returning to one, so she wanted to go to the small, immortal world to break through. Fang Qingshan didn't keep the two of them because he couldn't wait to cultivate in seclusion. After sending the two of them off, Fang Qingshan gave some instructions to Fang Ling and Fang Qin before going into the secret chamber. Today he had obtained 4 treasures: the yellow spring water, the Panwu's strength divine ability, the Great Five Elements technique, and the Linglong Grand overarching heaven. Because Fang Han had given Fang Qingshan a tributary of the Yellow Spring River, Fang Qingshan's yellow spring water was not stagnant and could be regenerated. It was just that its speed was not as fast as Fang Han's Yellow Spring River. Fang Qingshan placed it in the Heavenly Lake and nurtured it. The Heavenly Lake was originally a rare treasure. Later, it was smelted by the Celestial Arch and the Milky Way and turned into a sacred object. Although it had no offensive or defensive abilities like the Sutra Depository, it could gather spiritual qi and store spiritual water. It was perfect to put the yellow spring water into it. He planned to nurture the yellow spring water for a while before smelting it. Then, he gave the Panwu's strength divine ability, the Great Five Elements technique, and the Linglong Grand overarching heaven to the Book Lingzi of the Scripture Pavilion. This made him very happy. Initially, Lingzi was a little unwilling to submit to Fang Qingshan. However, after seeing that Fang Qingshan had thrown in 3 more supreme mystic arts not long after, that bit of unhappiness in his heart had long dissipated. Fang Qingshan did not care about what Book Lingzi thought. He was considering which of the 3 divine abilities he should cultivate first. Because of the Sand, Wondrous Book, and the Heaven and Earth 5 Elements Qi, Fang Qingshan was most proficient in the Tao of the 5 Elements. Logically speaking, he should cultivate the Great Five Elements technique first. However, Fang Qingshan thought about it, and felt that it was better to cultivate the yellow spring water first. As for the Linglong grand, overarching heaven, although this divine ability was not the 3,000 Hongjun Tiandao divine ability, it was not to be underestimated. It was the ultimate skill that made Venerable Ling Long famous. If he wanted to cultivate it successfully, it would be difficult to see results in a short period of time. Moreover, the reason why Fang Qingshan chose this divine ability was because he wanted to reflect it with the celestial chessboard and evolve it into his own divine ability. This was obviously not something that could be done in a short period of time. Therefore, in the end, only the Panwu Strength divine ability was left. The Panwu Strength divine ability was not any weaker than the Linglong Grand, overarching heaven. It was basically impossible to cultivate it in a short period of time. However, there was a method that absorbed battlefield spirits, killing intent, and even prayers to stimulate the acupoints in the head to open up a second sea of consciousness, cultivate the body and soul, and refine the transcendent artifact. It could be done quickly. Fang Qingshan didn't have any battlefield spirits or killing qi, but he had enough incense and the orbs of will to cultivate for a period of time. After all, he had the heavenly dragon, 3 kingdoms, 2 worlds, and millions of living beings worshipped him. The orbs of will that he had collected from the incense and wishes had condensed into a mountain. Chapter 245. Compared to the power of will, battlefield spirits, and killing aura, one had to find a place where there was war. But the power of will only needed someone to offer it. The most important thing was that the murderous aura was too sharp. When it was refined, it was a notch weaker than the Joss Flame's power of will. Fang Qingshan opened up a space in the Tree of World to store the power of will. Traces of the power of will gathered from the 3 kingdoms and the celestial dragon world, following the roots of the Tree of World into the space. The first step was naturally to remove and digest the poisonous impurities, turning them into pure power of will. Trace by trace, strand by strand, they gathered, intertwined, and condensed into water, forming beads. The orbs of will were exquisite and translucent, with a hint of gold. They symbolized purity, preciousness, sincerity, beauty, and wishes. Fang Qingshan swallowed the orbs of will. Following the cultivation method of the Panwu Great Strength Mystique, he refined them step by step, opening up his second sea of consciousness. The most crucial step in opening up the second sea of consciousness was heaven's perception. This was not a difficult task for Fang Qingshan, because Taoist magic arts and supernatural powers emphasize the unity of heaven and man the most. Moreover, the heaven realm and the mystique secret realm required heaven's perception. Therefore, even though it was Fang Qingshan's first time cultivating, he felt a sense of familiarity. Compared to using battle spirits and killing aura to open up the sea of consciousness, he still needed to be on guard and refine the grievance, battle intent, hatred, and wish energy. This was much easier and safer. As the Panwu Great Strength Mystique was activated, the orbs of will flowed in continuously. A mysterious acupoint in Fang Qingshan's body was slowly opening up. 1. The Panwu Great Strength Mystique fixed its position. The wish energy turned into a weapon, opening up the acupoint and nourishing it. As Fang Qingshan opened up his second sea of consciousness, his origin energy began to increase imperceptibly. This was the most fundamental power of the Panwu Great Strength Mystique. As a great source art, its most fundamental effect was to strengthen the origin energy. With the strengthening of the origin energy, magic power, mystique, mind, and physical body, all aspects were improved. 1. At a certain moment, his sea of consciousness was completely formed. Fang Qingshan closed his eyes and meditated. He saw that a mysterious spiritual space had appeared in his mind, revolving around his Naiwan palace. Originally, the sea of consciousness opened by the Panwu Great Strength magic skill was parallel to each other and did not interfere with each other. However, Fang Qingshan's natal Naiwan palace was too powerful. It contained the chessboard and the world tree, two ultimate treasures, and was constantly being strengthened by the power of providence and the origin of the world tree. Therefore, the result now was that the newly opened sea of consciousness was obviously incomparable to the Niwen Palace. It could only turn into a galaxy and revolve around the core. Tian Shi come. The newly opened sea of consciousness was empty. Naturally, there was no magic power. If it was not filled up, he would not be able to see the full effects. Fortunately, for Fang Qingshan, dermic powers and spiritual qi were easy. The world tree was constantly connecting to the myriad worlds and devouring vital energy. Now, there was the Heaven Lake, a Tao artifact that could gather spiritual energy. Fang Qingshan's magic power could not be said to be endless, but compared to an immortal magnate, it could only be better. With a thought, the water of the Heaven Lake instantly emerged and surged into the second sea of consciousness. In less than an hour, the second sea of consciousness was completely filled. Good. After feeling the changes in his body, Fang Qingshan could not help but exclaim. As expected of the Grand Origin skill, it really lives up to its name. The improvement of the origin, the strengthening of the foundation, the change in magic power, and so on. After opening up the second sea of consciousness, Fang Qingshan's power had changed again. Rumor had it that the elites in the secret realm of immortality had the power of 100 million galloping horses. According to the ancient records, the power of a heavenly dragon was equivalent to the power of 100 million galloping horses. Fang Qingshan had already broken through to the Dharma of heaven and earth and had accumulated a lot of power. He could even defeat ordinary immortal realms. Now, after opening up the second sea of consciousness, his power had increased by leaps and bounds. Not only did his power break the limit of 100 million for those who were not immortal, but it also increased by 20 million galloping horses. At this point, Fang Qingshan could say that other than his cultivation level, he was a true immortal magnate. Opening up one sea of consciousness is already so impressive. If I open up all 9 seas of consciousness, what kind of cultivation level would that be? At this point, even with Fang Qingshan's state of mind, he found it hard to control himself. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan did not lack wish power at all, so he decided to continue working hard and directly open up all 9 of his knowledge seas. If he could successfully cultivate the Grand Origin skill, even if it was not as good as the immortal body of the second level of the secret realm of immortality, it would not be too far off. At that time, with the one-breath Sanqing, even if he could not win, he would still be able to escape unscathed. Just as Fang Qingshan was cultivating in seclusion, preparing to open up all 9 seas of consciousness in one go and completely cultivate the Grand Origin skill. After refining the 2 metal and water attribute treasures obtained from Wan Luo into the 5 Emperors' great demon magical power, Fang Han did not continue to cultivate the Panwu's strength magical power, because he was not like Fang Qingshan, who had a steady stream of willpower to support him. After staying at the reincarnation peak for a while, he managed his forces, guided his disciples, and comprehended the Panwu's strength magical power. He left the emergent sect and went to the land of 5 elements. For him, the Panwu's strength magical power was indeed a great magical power, not inferior to the 5 Emperors' great demon magical power, but the 5 Emperors' great demon magical power was his fundamental magical power. Therefore, he was ready to cultivate the 5 Emperors' great demon magical power to perfection, and this was related to his advancement to the Golden Core realm. Fang Han left the emergent sect and continued to look for opportunities. Fang Qingxue entered the small celestial world of the emergent sect to cultivate in seclusion. If there was no Fang Qingshan, Fang Qingxue would soon be able to break through the Golden Core realm and achieve 24 magical powers, surpassing Jianan, Wan Luo, and the others in one fell swoop. However, after obtaining the Panwu's strength magical power from Fang Qingshan, Fang Qingxue did not immediately break through to the Golden Core realm, but first cultivated this Grand Origin skill. Fang Han was only in the Heavenly First Realm, but he already had more than 20 magical powers. Fang Qingshan broke through to the Golden Core realm, and he had 81 magical powers, which even heaven and earth celebrated. As the eldest daughter of the Fang family, the pillar of support, how could Fang Qingxue be willing to fall behind? It was fine if she did not obtain the Panwu's strength magical power, but with this magical power, how could she be willing to not continue to improve? Although Fang Qingxue did not have the willpower of all living beings, did not have the battle soul essence, and did not have the murderous qi, she had the little destiny skill. In the original trajectory, Fang Qingxue used the little destiny skill in exchange for a lot of magical powers, but now she had replaced the magical powers with the Panwu's strength magical power in advance. Chapter 246. Emergence Sect Inside the Emergence Heavenly Palace. Longevity Secret Realms Elder Tianxing, Elder Tiangong, Elder Tiangong, Elder Tiangong, and many other great elders such as Medicine King Elder, Hidden Sword Elder, Star Constellation Elder, and so on, were gathered together. Ever since Fang Qingshan told Elder Tianxing about the God race, this kind of thing happened frequently. The appearance of the God race did not surprise Elder Tianxing and the others. After all, the great calamity was imminent. Any longevity overlord or someone skilled in divination would be able to sense it. What shocked Elder Tianxing and the others was that the God race had infiltrated the sect, and they were completely unaware of it. This was a major event. The great change is imminent. Although it is extremely dangerous, it is also a great opportunity. If we can survive it, not only will our cultivation usher in an unprecedented period of growth, the entire sect may also surpass the Greater One sect and rule the Xianhuang Great World. Elder Tiangong said emotionally, "Yes, if our emergent sect can surpass the Greater One sect, we will have no regrets in our lives." Elder Tiangong agreed. "I think there is a high chance of this." Elder Tianxing said in a sonorous tone, "Compared to the Greater One sect, our emergent sect is only lacking an immortal tool and some foundation. An immortal tool is something that can only be obtained through luck. However, the sect master has obtained the Sky Emperor Mirror and is currently working together with the other great elders to restore it. Once we succeed, our emergent sect will truly have a foothold." After a pause, Elder Tianxing continued, "As for foundation, there is indeed a certain gap between our emergent sect and the Greater One sect. However, our foundation cannot be compared, but we can compare our future." "Compare our future?" Star Constellation Elder asked curiously. "What do you mean, Senior Brother Tianxing?" In the Xianhuang Great World, the first thing that came to mind was the astral sect that was on par with the emergent sect. However, that was only the most representative. There were also many other sects that were proficient in the Star Dao. Our emergent sect has Fang Qingshan, Hua Tiandu, Fang Qingxue, and Fang Han. Which disciple can't be ranked in the top 3 of the longevity list? Elder Tianxing swept his gaze across the other elders and said proudly. Moreover, Hua Tiandu has the treasure of Venerable Panwu. Fang Qingxue has inherited the legacy of the ancient Thunder Emperor. Fang Han has the Netherworld Great Emperor's decree, and Fang Qingshan is the most mysterious one. I don't know whose inheritance he has inherited, but just by looking at his cultivation speed and combat strength, we can know a thing or two. With the 4 of them, why should we worry that our emergent sect can't compete with the Greater One sect? Senior Brother Tianxing is right. Elder Hidden Sword nodded in agreement. Moreover, when the Great Tribulation comes, the Greater One sect, as the number 1 sect in the Black-Yellow Great World, is the first to bear the brunt, giving our emergent sect a chance to surpass them. Although this person's cultivation couldn't compare to Elder Tianxing, his murderous and iron-blooded aura wasn't much inferior. He was the Hidden Sword Elder who was in charge of the Sword Tomb of the emergent sect. His combat power was astonishing. What I'm worried about now is that one mountain cannot accommodate 2 tigers. Medicine King Elder said with sorrow in his heart. Having more geniuses was indeed a good thing for the sect. However, all geniuses had their own personalities, and no one was willing to submit to another. If they couldn't unite against a common enemy and instead had internal strife, it would not be a good thing for the sect, but a disaster. Yes, especially since Fong Han and Hua Tiandu are already fighting. Elder Duo Bao echoed. If it was in the past, this would indeed be a problem. Elder Tian Xing waved his hand indifferently. But now it's not a problem. Oh, senior brother Tian Xing knows something? Imparting Elder asked. There are too many geniuses, and internal strife is indeed very troublesome. Elder Tian Xing nodded and said, however, if there's one person who is completely above them and can suppress everyone, then it won't be a problem. Senior brother, are you talking about Fong Qingshan? Hidden Sword Elder asked. Yes. Elder Tian Xing nodded and said with emotion, not long ago, outside the great Xian Empire, people from Hongjun Tiandao suddenly attacked. All the elders naturally nodded. People from Hongjun Tiandao, as the sect leader of the Greater One sect, and their cultivation had reached half of the longevity secret realm. Every move of such a person was not to be underestimated. As far as I know, he might be trying to capture Fong Qingshan. Elder Tian Xing slowly revealed a secret. What? How is that possible? Hearing Elder Tian Xing's words, someone immediately cried out in shock, his face full of disbelief. Yes, how is that possible? First, it was because the sect leader of the Greater One sect had gone back on his word and attacked Fong Qingshan. After all, Feng Baiyu had gone to the Greater One sect to end his karma. Second, the people from Hongjun Tiandao had personally attacked, but Fong Qingshan was still alive and unscathed. If it were them, they would most likely be captured even if they did not die. Although it's a little unbelievable, it's the truth. Elder Tian Xing nodded in satisfaction when he saw the expressions of the crowd. Thinking back, when he first learned of the news, he had the same reaction as them. Anger, shock, surprise, etc. Moreover, Fong Qingshan's cultivation has broken through again. Elder Tian Xing seemed to feel that the news was not shocking enough, so he threw out another bomb. Although I don't know his current cultivation level, his combat strength is absolutely shocking. Even I feel a sense of danger from him, a sense of fear. How is that possible? Although they knew that Elder Tian Xing would not joke about them, the crowd was still shocked and felt that it was unimaginable. Physical body, divine abilities, longevity, each realm was a different world, and it was the Milky Way heavenly wrath. Now that Elder Tian Xing told the crowd that Fong Qingshan was comparable to the longevity secret realm, how could they not be in disbelief? Buzz. Just then, a celestial sound suddenly came from afar. There was the sound of a magical conch blowing and a magical drum being beaten. Then a vast pressure spread in all directions. The crowd looked in the direction of the sound and saw countless figures, celestial deities, mystical plants, and spirit beasts dancing on Fong Qingshan's, all heaven's peak. Rays of auspicious light surged like the tide. Surging origin energy soared into the sky, condensing into a rainbow in the sky, stretching from east to west, north to south. There were 10 suns in the sky. This was the projection of Fong Qingshan's 10 sea of consciousness after he had completely opened up his 9 sea of consciousness. In addition to the sea of consciousness in his Naiwan palace, he had 10 sea of consciousness projections, as expected of a great origin skill. Although it was not as mysterious as the Great Karma Art or the Great Destiny Art, it was still very impressive. After opening up 9 sea of knowledge, one's magic power was at least 9 times greater than that of others. Not only could they suppress others with brute force, but they could also drag out the battle of attrition to death. If they had a powerful artifact on top of that, challenging someone above their level would be easier than drinking water. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.